Chapter 341 Meet the Daimyo. Although I learned something from Hasegawa Kazuhiko's letter, Tashinya was not in a hurry to go to the capital of the country of fire, because Sarutobi Hiruzen was going to go soon. Although Konoha Village and Fire Country belong to two systems, Konoha Village guards Fire Country, and Fire Country provides resources for Konoha Village, which can be regarded as an employment relationship, but in name, Hokage in Konoha Village requires the name of Fire Country to appoint. Of course, when it is said that it is an appointment, it is actually just to give some opinions. It is still necessary for Konoha Village to discuss who will be Hokage. However, as the successor of Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen needs to meet with the daimyo before the ceremony and get the daimyo's approval, which is justifiable. And Sarutobi Hiruzen must not go alone to meet the Fire Country daimyo, but to bring some senior officials of Konoha Village with him, and Dong Shenya will naturally be accompanied by him. Just 2 days after Hasegawa Kazuhiko's letter, Sarutobi Hiruzen called the elders together. Everyone, according to the usual Hokage candidates, are determined by the daimyo, so I'm going to the capital to meet the daimyo. It turned out to be this, but this kind of thing needs to be accompanied by other high-level officials in the village. I don't know, who are you going to take, Sarutobi? Miyamura asked in a harmonious voice. Mito 227 Menyon and Kaharu Udatane are Hokage advisors, so they should go there. Naraju, as a staff advisor, should also go together. Tashinya is the chief elder of the elders, so he has to go too. As for the others, forget about it. To Sarutobi Hiruzen's arrangement, and they directly agreed. Okay, we'll set off tomorrow, you guys can go back and pack up. And when we're not here, I'll trouble the elders of Gunkun Village. Don't worry, we'll take good care of the family. After the meeting, everyone left. Dong Shenyao just took over as the headmaster of the ninja school, and some reform plans have not been released, so he is relatively relaxed now. He just went to the ninja school and said that he would be able to leave the village for a while, and then he went again. A Dark Blade. Now Dark Blade has no tasks most of the time. Kudo-jun and the others are mainly focused on cultivating new recruits, so Dark Blade has nothing to do. After Dong Shenyao explained it, he left, and finally he found Tsunade. Tsunade is a ninja, and the village is short of manpower, so most of the time he is performing tasks, and there are few opportunities for the two to meet. This time, he is leaving the village. Although he will be back soon, Dong Shenyao is still ready to meet her. Tsunade happened to be at home today. After learning that Tashinya was going to the capital of the country of fire, Tsunade was a little disappointed, because she finally rested and had no tasks tomorrow. Tsunade will accompany you when I come back, Dong Shenyao assured. Yeah, this is what you said, don't go back on it. Of course I won't go back on it. Just like that, after being tired of Tsunade for a while, Dong Shenyao went home. Early the next morning, the group left Konoha. Although everyone is strong, but after all, they are also high-ranking people, so it is natural to have some pomp when going out. This time they came out with a total of 8 Anbu, not to let these Anbu protect them, just to show Konoha the strength of the village. Everyone was very fast, and they arrived at the capital of the country of fire that afternoon. Originally, Sarutobi Hiruzen was going to see the Fire Country daimyo on the same day, but he got news that daimyo was ill, and now he has rested and cannot meet Sarutobi Hiruzen, which made everyone a little helpless, but they could only accept it. Force people to see you. Unlike others, Dong Shenyao already knew about this matter, and he even knew it in more detail, because Hasegawa Kazuhiko had already explained it in the letter before. Hasegawa Kazuhiko said in the letter before that his father, the current daimyo of the country of fire, was seriously ill and was about to die. Although he had already left a decree to appoint Hasegawa Kazuhiko as the daimyo's successor, Hasegawa Kazuhiko was afraid the younger brother will do other things, so he wants to ask Dong Shenyao to go to the capital to protect him. Although they didn't see the daimyo, the officials of the country of fire knew that Sarutobi Hiruzen and the others were not ordinary, so they did not dare to neglect an arranged accommodation for Sarutobi Hiruzen and others, but just after these arrangements were made, Zheng Yan found Dong Shenyao. That Zheng Yan will find him Dong Shenyao. After all, this is someone else's territory, so he will naturally know the news of his arrival as soon as possible. East God Kun, Your Highness has a request. Well, please General lead the way. In this way, Dong Shenyao followed Zheng Yan into the Daming house, and finally he met Kazuhiko Hasegawa in a courtyard. I have seen His Highness Kazuhiko. Tashin-kun is polite, just call me Kazuhiko. Hasegawa Kazuhiko said like a corporal. Dong Shenyao did not refuse. Kazuhiko, you can just call me Dong Shenyao directly. After the two briefly chatted for a while, Dong Shenyao went straight to the topic. Kazuhiko, I don't know how the daimyo is now. Very bad, now my father has fallen into a coma. Hasegawa Kazuhiko's expression became very serious. I have been consulted by a doctor before. According to the doctor, my father can only live for about 10 days at most. It's so serious. Dong Shenyao didn't expect the situation to be so urgent, and suddenly he thought of Sarutobi Hiruzen again. This daimyo is going to die. It seems impossible for Sarutobi Hiruzen to meet the daimyo. Kazuhiko, don't know what preparations you have done. The preparation is naturally done. Now the army in the capital is under my control, but I am worried that my younger brother will hire ninjas. Hasegawa Kazuhiko has also seen the power of ninjas. He knows that relying on the army alone it can't stop a powerful ninja, not to mention that what ninja is best at is assassination. That's it, then do you want to strike first? Dong Shenyao said murderously. Don't say it again, Dong Shenyao, unless my brother shoots first, I won't attack him. Hasegawa Kazuhiko said solemnly. It seems that Kazuhiko attaches great importance to family relationships. Dong Shenyao was a little surprised. Anyway, he is my brother. Hasegawa Kazuhiko said with a sad look on his face. Tashinyao didn't speak, until Hasegawa Kazuhiko's mood stabilized, and then he talked about Sarutobi Hiruzen's coming to the capital. It turns out that you came to the capital for this purpose, but now my father is in a coma, and it is impossible to see Sarutobi, but I can do my father's order instead. Thank you. 13,812,737,322, 3 points drunk for the monthly ticket support. Chapter 342 Assault at the Enthronement Ceremony. Sarutobi Hiruzen and the others did not see the daimyo of the Land of Fire until the end, but they received a decree from the daimyo, which stated that Sarutobi Hiruzen was appointed Hokage, the third head of Konoha village. Although I haven't seen a daimyo, this will is enough, and Sarutobi Hiruzen can justifiably succeed Hokage. The purpose has been achieved, and the planned succession ceremony is not a few days away, so Sarutobi Hiruzen and the others did not stay in the capital for long, and left the next day after receiving the will. How is it, are they all gone? In a room in Daming Mansion, a young man looked at his subordinates and asked. His Royal Highnesses from the village of Konoha have all gone, no one is left. Very well, it seems that our plan can begin. Immediately notify those people and rush to the capital as soon as possible. Yes. After taking the order, the subordinates left quickly. Brother, don't think that you have secured the victory. As long as I don't officially succeed to the throne, I still have a chance. At this moment, a wicked look appeared on the young man's face. After Sarutobi Hiruzen and others left, the daimyo of the Land of Fire finally died of a serious illness. For a time, the entire daimyo mansion was busy, dealing with the daimyo's funeral and preparing for a new daimyo to succeed him. Matter. A country cannot live without kun, so although the old daimyo has just died and has not even been buried yet, the succession ceremony of the new daimyo has to start first, and only after the new daimyo takes the throne can the previous daimyo be buried. Hasegawa Kazuhiko is the eldest son of the daimyo, and also has the will of the daimyo, so it is justifiable to inherit the position of the daimyo. In addition, Hasegawa Kazuhiko is friendly, so no one can pick out the fault, and even most people support Hasegawa Kazuhiko. On the third day after the death of daimyo in the Kingdom of Fire, everything was ready. This morning, in the square of Daming House, all the senior officials of the Kingdom of Fire gathered here to participate in the enthronement ceremony of Kazuhiko Hasegawa. The auspicious time has come. Please, His Highness Hasegawa Kazuhiko. With the shout of a ceremonial official, Hasegawa Kazuhiko slowly walked out of the palace under the escort of many guards. At this time, Kazuhiko Hasegawa's expression was serious, and a hint of majesty appeared on his body unconsciously, which made people feel respectful. When Hasegawa Kazuhiko came to the high platform in front of the square, under the instructions of the rites, the succession ceremonies were carried out one by one, and soon came to the last step. Please, Your Highness, take the jade seal and wear the crown. As the ceremony official's voice sounded, I saw two men walking over, each holding a tray in their hands, on which were the jade seal and the crown. The crown represents identity, and the jade seal represents power. As long as Hasegawa Kazuhiko wears the crown and takes over the jade seal, it will be regarded as an official successor to the daimyo. Everything went smoothly. At the beginning, the guards around were still very vigilant, constantly looking at the situation around them, but as time passed, seeing that the succession ceremony was coming to an end, these guards also relaxed their vigilance. Soon the two men had stepped onto the stage and approached Kazuhiko Hasegawa, but in the end, the two stopped 1 meter away from Kazuhiko Hasegawa, then knelt down on one knee and raised the tray above their heads. Hasegawa Kazuhiko didn't hesitate, and took a step forward. He picked up the crown from the plate and prepared to take it on. When everyone's eyes were attracted by the crown, 4 people in black clothes suddenly appeared from all around. Of ninjas. One by one, these people were dressed in black, with katana swords on their backs and masks on their heads. They looked similar to Konoha Anbu, but they didn't wear the forehead guards of Konoha village. After these people appeared, they directly raised their hands, and suddenly more than 10 shuriken shot at Hasegawa Kazuhiko. Ah! Seeing this sudden scene, the people around were stunned. They didn't expect that something would change at such a time. Those soldiers wanted to protect Hasegawa Kazuhiko, but it was too late. The shuriken was less than 2 feet away from Hasegawa Kazuhiko. These shuriken flew extremely fast and could not be intercepted at all. At this time, Hasegawa Kazuhiko had also discovered that someone had attacked him, but unlike the others, Hasegawa Kazuhiko was calm and relaxed at this time, without the slightest nervousness. This kind of demeanor was admired by many people, but also a little regretful. Because no one thought Hasegawa Kazuhiko would survive. However, when Hasegawa Kazuhiko was about to die under the shuriken, a figure shrouded in a black cloak suddenly appeared on the high platform, and then the man in black robe waved his hand and immediately hit Hasegawa Kazuhiko in all directions. All the shurikens were shot back. What? The re-emergence of the accident surprised everyone again, but it was followed by excitement, because their new daimyo survived. Quick, protect the big name. Zheng Yan had already reacted at this time, and hurriedly greeted his subordinates and surrounded the high platform. But at this moment, the 2 servants who had been kneeling in front of Hasegawa Kazuhiko before suddenly attacked. I saw that the 2 took out a kunai from their arms and went straight to Hasegawa Kazuhiko to stab them. Although the attack of the 2 was very sudden, the man in the black robe still reacted, and before the 2 of them stabbed Hasegawa Kazuhiko, I saw a flash of cold light, and the 2 kunai had already shot them first. In the throat, at the same time, the inertia of Kuwusheng directly knocked the corpses of the 2 people into the air. East God Kun, I'll leave everything to you. Hasegawa Kazuhiko came behind the black robe and whispered. Don't worry, Da Ming, with me, you will be fine. Dong Shenyao said firmly. This person is Ta Shenyao, but no one except Hasegawa Kazuhiko knows his identity. Of course Zheng Yan may guess some. In the eyes of most people, Ta Shenyao has already returned to Konoha village with Sarutobi Hiruzen, but they don't know. In fact, it is Ta Shenyao's Earth clone who went back with Sarutobi Hiruzen. However, Dong Shenyao is sure that no one in this world can see through his Earth avatar. If he doesn't say it, no one will think that it is just an avatar. Even Sarutobi Hiruzen was kept in the dark, thinking that it was Ta Shenyao himself who went back with him. It was because of this that Tashinyao was able to hide from everyone's eyes and stayed in the capital. These days, he has been secretly protecting Kazuhiko Hasegawa, and today is no exception to such an important day. Dong Shenyao has long been hidden in the dark. Chapter 343 Calamity. After seeing that the shuriken did not kill Hasegawa Kazuhiko, the four black-clothed ninjas immediately accelerated and ran towards Hasegawa Kazuhiko, but at this time the guards around them had already reacted, and they rushed up to kill these ninjas. Although these guards are not ninjas, they are also carefully selected. Each of them has good strength, and there are many people, so they actually stopped these four ninjas for a while, but seeing this scene, Hasegawa Kazuhiko did not relax. Sure enough, it didn't take long to see a young man walking out of the crowd under the escort of more than a dozen ninjas. These ninjas were also dressed in black, and at first glance they were the same as the four ninjas who attacked Kazuhiko Hasegawa. There are relationships. Looking at the young man who was guarded by more than a dozen ninjas, a trace of sadness appeared on Hasegawa Kazuhiko's face. "Brother, we meet again." The young man looked at Hasegawa Kazuhiko on the high platform. "Rana, why? Why? You asked me why, and I have to ask my father. Why did I pass on the position of the daimyo to you, just because you are a brother?" Rana growled loudly. At this time, the ministers of the country of fire all hid one by one. Looking at Rana and Hasegawa Kazuhiko, they already understood that this attack was obviously planned by Rana for the sake of the daimyo. "Rana, I didn't expect you to kill me for the sake of being a great name." Kazuhiko Hasegawa was heartbroken at this time. Even though he had learned from Dongshinyao that his younger brother hired missing nin to kill him, Kazuhiko Hasegawa was still unwilling to do so. Believe it, but at this time the two confronted each other, but he couldn't help but believe it. "That's right, I just want to kill you. As long as you die, the position of the daimyo in the country of fire will be mine." Rana's face was hideous. At this moment, he was crazy. For the position of daimyo, he can do anything, not to mention his brother. Even if it is his father Rana who is in front of him, he will kill. "You guys go to me and kill Kazuhiko Hasegawa." "Yes." With Rana's order, more than a dozen ninjas around him immediately acted. Except for two people who continued to protect Rana, the others rushed straight to Hasegawa Kazuhiko. "Protect the daimyo-sama," Zheng Yan shouted quickly when he saw this scene, and at the same time he rushed up to meet these ninjas with people. The strength of the dozen or so ninjas shot this time is obviously not comparable to the previous four. 3 of the previous 4 were genin, and only 1 was chunin. They are all chunin, and there are even special jonin and jonin level existences among them. I saw a ninja with one hand, and suddenly a large shuriken shot out quickly. Puff puff. The blood flowers bloomed, and in an instant, more than a dozen soldiers were killed by the shuriken, and then others also shot. In the face of these ordinary soldiers, most ninjas did not use ninjutsu. After all, for chunin, the number of chakras is limited, and it is not enough to use a few ninjutsu, so unless it comes to a critical moment, it will not be easy to use ninjutsu. But one of them, Jonin, put both hands in front of him to hand seal in order to resolve the battle as soon as possible. Kaden Fire Style, Phoenix Sage Fire Technique. Whoosh whoosh. Several small fireballs shot out and went straight to the guards. I'm coming. Zheng Yan came to the front of the guards with a katana. Break it for me. With a loud roar from Zheng Yan, he slashed out with one knife, directly dispersing a small fireball, and then chopped out a few more knives, and the remaining small fireballs were also shattered. It's a little tricky. Seeing that Zheng Yan was able to break his ninjutsu skills, Jonin couldn't help frowning. You go to deal with the target, this person is handed over to me. After explaining, Jonin went straight to Zheng Yan to kill, while the other ninjas still rushed towards Hasegawa Kazuhiko. Zheng Yan wanted to stop him, but at this time, Jonin stopped him. In the face of a Jonin, Zheng Yan had to be careful, so he could only watch other ninjas rush past him, but Zheng Yan was not in a hurry, because he knew that there were still masters around this famous name. Soon Zheng Yan fought with the Jonin, and after the remaining ninjas divided up a few people to deal with the guards, the others had already killed the high stage. Whoosh whoosh. One after another, the kunai opened, and Dong Shenyao's eyes narrowed, because he found that the detonating charms were tied to the back of these kunais. Shinra Tensai, Almighty Push, sign. Dong Shenyao waved his hand and released a repulsive force, directly repelling all these kunai. Boom. 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 The explosions sounded one after another, but Dong Shenyao and the others were not injured. Instead, 2 ninjas were accidentally affected by the explosion and were injured. Kaden Fire Style, Dragon Fire Bullet. Woo. In an instant, the space within dozens of meters under the high platform was covered by fire. This was because Dong Shenyao was afraid of hurting innocent people, so he suppressed the power of ninjutsu. Otherwise, the flames would spread within a few hundred meters. In the face of Dong Shenyao's attack, those ninjas showed their magical powers one by one, but the gap in strength was irreparable. When the flames disappeared, those chunins were all burned to death, leaving only 1 jonin and 3 special jonins still alive. Damn. Seeing the death of their companions, the 4 surviving ninjas were furious. After seeing the flames disappear, the 4 went straight to Dong Shenyao and rushed towards them. They wanted to avenge their companions. Turkey dog. After Dong Shenyao curled his lips in disdain, the next moment, his body had disappeared on the high platform. Where are the people? The 4 ninjas were taken aback. PFF'd. The figure of Dong Shenyao suddenly appeared behind a ninja. The next moment, the kunai in his hand had penetrated into the back of the ninja's heart. Soon, the figure of Dong Shenyao disappeared again, followed by a burst of blood Jinchuriki column squirting. Hirono. After seeing the person who was killed, Jonin cried out in grief. PFF'd. Blood spurted 2.1 splashes, and another person died in the hands of Dong Shenyao. Ah. Seeing that he couldn't even see where Dong Shenyao was, Jonin was a little crazy. Earth Fissure. Dong Shenyao did not continue to assassinate, only to see his right foot stepped on the ground, and a crack suddenly opened in the ground. The crack spread directly to the feet of the 2 ninjas. They were about to pick it up to avoid it, and suddenly the surrounding gravity increased instantly. The 2 did not pick it up at all, and their bodies fell directly into the crack. Then the cracks closed. Boom. Although I can't see the final result, I don't have to think about it to know that these 2 ninjas will never survive. After all, the strongest of them is Jonin. The update ends today. Ask for a monthly pass and get a reward. Chapter 344 Quell the Rebellion. Although Dong Shenyao has killed a lot of ninjas, the battle is not over, and some ninjas are still fighting with the guards of the daimyo house. Although there were not many ninjas, they had the upper hand. At this time, there were already a lot of bodyguards lying on the ground, and some guards died every few seconds. Please help those guards. Hasegawa Kazuhiko hurriedly shouted when he saw that Dong Shenyao had already dealt with the enemy. Got it. After replying, Tashinyao first separated a shadow clone to protect Kazuhiko Hasegawa, and his body directly joined the battle. At this time, most of the ninjas fighting with the guards were some chunin. These people were not the enemies of Dong Shenyao at all. Often Dong Shenyao flashed by, and a ninja had already been beheaded by him. In less than a minute, the battle was almost over, and now only Jonin, who was fighting Zheng Yan, and the 2 ninjas guarding Rana were left. The 3 ninjas who were still alive at this time were already anxious, or frightened. 15 They did not expect such a strong person to protect Kazuhiko Hasegawa, and they now regretted their cooperation with Rana. These people are just some wandering ninjas. In terms of strength, they are almost at the bottom of the ranks, but they can live in the ninja world for so long, and they still have eyesight. The strength displayed by Dong Shenyao at this time is at least 1. A peak-level elite Jonin. This kind of existence is not something they can provoke. The Jonin who fought against Zheng Yan wanted to run away, but Zheng Yan refused and desperately entangled him, while the 2 ninjas who were protecting Rana were quietly retreating, apparently ready to abandon Rana. Where are you going? Just after the 2 ninjas took 2 steps back, a voice suddenly came from behind them. What? The two were startled, but before they could turn around to look, a rock arm rose from the ground under their feet and pulled them directly into the ground. In the end, only their heads were exposed, but at this time the ground has been stained with blood. Yuhi. It turns out that the bodies of the two have been crushed by the earth, and only the heads are still intact. Rana was alarmed by the movement behind him, turned around and found that only the heads of the two ninjas who had protected him were left, and a man in a black cloak was standing not far from him. Who are you? Rana asked in horror as he looked at Ta Xinyao, but he didn't get an answer. Why don't you help me? I can double what Kazuhiko can give you. Rana actually tempted Dong Xinyao. If there is no mission, Dong Xinyao may still consider it, but in order to complete the task, how could Dong Xinyao take refuge in Rana? Are you done? Ta Xinyao's words made Rana stunned, and just when he was stunned, Ta Xinyao stepped forward and grabbed his neck, then lifted Rana up. Hurry up and let me down. Rana kept struggling, but unfortunately he lived a life of fine clothes and food since he was a child, and his physical quality was far from that of Dong Xinyao. Dong Xinyao ignored Nara's struggles, carried him with one hand, and walked towards Jianan, who was still fighting with Zheng Yan. At this point, Jianan was really scared, and he was about to cry. When I provoke someone, I just want to make some money. How can I meet such a pervert? Zheng Yan, get out of the way. After Dong Xinyao shouted, his body instantly accelerated. Hearing Dong Xinyao shout, Zheng Yan quickly retreated after forcing Jianan back. The next moment, before Jianan could take the opportunity to escape, Dong Xinyao had already rushed up. Bang! Jianan blocked his arms in front of him and blocked Dong Xinyao punch. The huge force made his body fly backwards. At the same time, Jianan felt his arms go numb, and he temporarily lost consciousness. Whoosh! A cold light flashed, and the next moment, a kunai sank into Jianan's throat. Puff! The corpse fell to the ground, but the guards didn't pay attention to it, but looked at Dong Xinyao in admiration one by one. With just one hand, he easily killed the ninja who had been shaking with Zheng Yan for a long time, which made the guards realize the powerful strength of Dong Xinyao. Killing Jianan casually, Dong Xinyao carried Rana back to the high platform. Kazuhiko, he handed it over to you. Said, Ta Xinyao directly put Rana on the ground. Thank you, Hasegawa, Kazuhiko said gratefully. No thanks. As he spoke, a white three-edged shuriken in Dongshin's dazzling eyes turned gently, causing Kazuhiko Hasegawa to be in a trance, but he himself did not notice anything unusual. You should be able to handle the matter here, I'll go first. After speaking, Dong Xinyao did not give Hasegawa Kazuhiko a chance to speak, and his body disappeared directly into the ground. At the same time, Dong Shenyao's shadow clone also disappeared, turned into smoke and disappeared. Ta Xinyao didn't pay attention to how Hasegawa Kazuhiko dealt with Rana. After leaving, he returned directly to the residence that Hasegawa Kazuhiko had arranged for him. And not long after Dong Xinyao returned to his residence, the sound of the system sounded. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the A-level task, helping Kazuhiko Hasegawa to become the great name of the country of fire. You will receive a reward of 6,000 God-making points. Dong Xinyao was excited when he got 6,000 God creation points again. Originally, with his current number of 377 God creation points, it would not be the case if it was only 6,000. After all, killing a quasi-shadow would get more God creation points than this. But the key point is that now the war function has been closed, he can no longer obtain the God building point by killing ninjas, so now every God building point is very precious to Dong Xinyao. It was not until late at night that Hasegawa Kazuhiko found Ta Xinyao again. Kazuhiko, it looks like you are very busy. Yeah, I just took over the throne today, I'm already busy, and that kind of thing happened. Hasegawa Kazuhiko said bitterly. Congratulations, you have inherited the position of the great name. Hehe, I have to thank you for this. If you have anything in the future, feel free to contact me. As long as I can do it, I will never refuse. Hasegawa Kazuhiko said gratefully. Don't worry, I will definitely not be polite if it is of use to you. Dong Xinyao did not refuse. After all, he helped Hasegawa Kazuhiko not only because of the task, but also to get the support of the Fire Country's daimyo. It would be more convenient for him to do something in the future. It was very late, so Hasegawa Kazuhiko didn't stay here, chatted with Dong Xinyao, expressed his gratitude, and left. Thank you QPH 3344, Xiaoyi HCP, for the monthly ticket support. Chapter 345 Sarutobi succeeds to the throne. Hasegawa Kazuhiko has officially taken over as the daimyo, and the rebellion of his younger brother Rana Hasegawa has also been quelled. As for how Kazuhiko dealt with his younger brother, Tashinyao did not ask, because it has nothing to do with him. On the third day of Hasegawa Kazuhiko's ascension to the throne, after confirming that everything was stable, Dong Xinyao bid farewell to Hasegawa Kazuhiko and secretly returned to Konoha. These days, things in Konoha village have been handled by Dong Shenyao's earth clone. When Dong Shenyao quietly returned to the village and put away the earth clone, he got all the memories of the earth clone. From these memories, Dong Shenyao learned that no one noticed the problem of the earth clone, which made him relieved. Moreover, Dong Shenyao also learned from the memory of the Earth Avatar that the Earth Avatar has begun to reform the Ninja Academy these days. Because Dong Shenyao already had some rough plans about the reform, the Earth Avatar has the memory of Dong Shenyao, and the way of thinking is the same, so these days, the Earth Avatar has completely perfected these plans, and the result is the same as that of Dong Shenyao. Think about it. There are a lot of reform plans for ninja school, but most of them are relatively small changes that are relatively scattered and irrelevant, and the most important reform is the curriculum that these students study. At this time, Dong Shenyao's Earth Avatar was rewriting a set of teaching materials. The previous textbooks were all written by Senju Tobarama. Although Senju Tobarama is powerful, they have no previous experience, so there are inevitably some loopholes in the textbooks. After all, Dong Xinyao graduated from ninja school, so he is very familiar with the curriculum, and naturally he can find some loopholes and deficiencies. Now what Dong Xinyao has to do is to rewrite a set of textbooks and teaching plans that are more complete and suitable for children's learning. Dong Xinyao remembers that when the plot of the original novel started, the ninja school seemed to be a 6-year system, which was not bad in Dong Shenyao's view. After all, most children are playful, and they are too young to learn without care, and becoming a ninja early will greatly increase the mortality rate. And if students study longer, it can also allow them to acquire more knowledge, and their strength will be stronger when they graduate, which will help these people have a higher survival rate after becoming ninjas. However, although he is preparing to reform, Dong Xinyao knows that this kind of reform to extend the study time cannot be implemented in a short period of time, because Konoha village is currently short of ninjas, and a large number of ninjas need to be replenished, so the students' study is extended. Time is obviously unrealistic, and his plan can only be realized when everything subsides and the impact of the war on Konoha village has passed. At this time, the Earth Avatar has already compiled more than half of the new textbooks, and it is almost finished. In order to promote these textbooks as soon as possible, Dong Shenyao directly continues the work of the Earth Avatar and begins to compile the textbooks. In a flash, another 2 days passed, and all the textbooks were completely written. Then, after Tashinyao printed a few copies of the textbooks, he took it to the ninja school. After school that day, Tashinyao gathered all the teachers of the ninja school, and then distributed the newly written teaching materials. This is my new textbook. You can see if there is any problem. The teachers didn't speak, they took the teaching materials and looked at them one by one. Not bad. Very good. As expected of the principal, the textbooks written are really good. Although these teachers are suspected of flattering, they have to admit that the textbooks written by Dong Shenyao are indeed much better than the original ones. If you see no problem, then go to print now. Distribute the new teaching materials as soon as possible, and you all have a serious look at them, and then change the teaching plan according to the new teaching materials. Dong Shenyao directly began to publish the task. Let's talk about the teaching materials here first, and then let's talk about the curriculum reform. In this way, the meeting did not end until it was dark, and everyone went home. Over the next few days, the reform of the ninja school began. The first is to distribute new textbooks. These textbooks are all written by Dong Shenyao, and his name is written on them. This is actually one of Dong Shenyao's plans to subtly deepen his impression in the hearts of these people. When people grow up in the future, then Dong Shenyao's prestige in Konoha village will be unmatched, because these people grew up watching the textbooks written by Dong Shenyao. In addition, these textbooks also introduced the masters of the Konoha village in the past, and added a lot of good words to the content of the introduction of Dong Shenyao. After all, it was written by Dong Shenyao himself. As long as it's not too much, others won't care. In this way, everything is going in a good direction. At this time, the students of the ninja school also know that their principal has changed. The current principal is the genius of Konoha, the super master Tashinyao, who killed Kazekage with his own hands. People. This is indeed true, but in the introduction, Tashinyao weakened the role of Yoshikawa Jiro and others, and emphasized his role in this battle. Although these things can't be seen now, but once the time is long, after these students grow into Konoha branch Jinchuriki column, then Dong Shenyao will be supreme in their hearts, because it is Dong Shenyao who saved Konoha village, defeated Iwagakure, defeated Sunagakure. Soon, the time came to the day of the Hokage succession ceremony. Because the news had already spread in the village early in the morning, whether it was ordinary villagers or ninjas, as long as there was no particularly important matter, they all came to the Hokage building. 8 o'clock, Sarutobi Hiruzen, surrounded by the high rises of Konoha village, came to the platform in front of the Hokage building. Looking at the dense crowd below, Sarutobi Hiruzen was excited. Not only him, but also all the high-level Konoha leaders could not calm down. Dong Shenyao was standing beside Sarutobi Hiruzen. At this time, he was not wearing the green vest representing Jonin, but was wearing a death tyrant outfit like the one worn by the god of death in the anime of death. With his long hair scattered behind him and a slightly lazy look on his face, Dong Shenyao was particularly eye-catching at this time, even surpassing today's protagonist Sarutobi Hiruzen. There are many young women looking at Dong Shenyao with deep love in their eyes. Yo is so handsome today. Tsunade muttered while looking at Dong Shenyao in the crowd. What? I think it's a bit of a shit. Jiraiya pouted. Chapter 346 News from the Kingdom of Chen. What? I think it's a bit of a shit. Jiraiya pouted. Although Jiraiya also felt that Dong Shenyao was dressed very handsomely today, he would not admit it, because this was said by Tsunade, the woman he had a crush on, which made Jiraiya a little jealous of Dong Shenyao. Bang! Tsunade's fist hit Jiraiya's head directly, and a big bag popped up from Jiraiya's head in an instant. Now Tsunade's chakra-enhanced strength has gained some heat, although not using full force, it still hurts Jiraiya a bit. Tsunade, what are you doing? Jiraiya said in dissatisfaction, covering her head. HMPH, who asked you to say that? He taught you anyway, that's how you treat your teacher. Tsunade asked. Jiraiya stopped talking, and now he feels that he has gone too far, not to mention that Dong Shenyao taught him. Just saving him from Iwagakure at the beginning is enough to make him grateful for a lifetime. I'm sorry, it was my fault. Jiraiya hurriedly admitted his mistake. Of course he wouldn't admit that he was afraid of Tsunade's fist. Looking at the two people fighting, Orochimaru seemed very calm, because he was used to this situation. At this time, Orochimaru was watching 093 Dong Shenyao closely. To him, Tashinyao is his idol, or rather Tashinyao is the idol of all the young ninjas in Konoha village. He was young, but he had outstanding military exploits. He even became the chief elder of Konoha village. In terms of status, he was definitely below one person and above 10,000 people, but Dong Shenyao was only 11 years old now. If a person is only better than others, it will cause others to be jealous, but if there is a difference between the sky and the earth, and they stand in a place where everyone needs to look up, then this jealousy will disappear and be replaced by it is worship and yearning. Orochimaru is a genius, which even Dong Shenyao has to admit, but compared to the current Dong Shenyao, Orochimaru is a bit underwhelming. At this time, Orochimaru's strength has also improved through experience and has reached the level of an elite chunin. This is already considered very powerful among his peers, but unfortunately compared with Dong Shenyao, the difference is almost 108,000 miles, and the age difference between the two is only 2 years. From today onwards, I, Sarutobi Hiruzen, will succeed Hokage as the third generation of Is. I, Sarutobi, swear to the heavens that I will protect Konoha village with my own life. Long live Sarutobi-sama. Sir Sarutobi, I love you. As Sarutobi Hiruzen's voice fell, cheers came from below. At this time, a ninja came over, and this man held a hat in his hand, which was the standard of Hokage, a hat that symbolized Hokage's identity. After taking the hat, Sarutobi Hiruzen put it directly on his head. At this moment, the word, generation, on Sarutobi Hiruzen can be removed, and it has officially become Hokage. The cheers from below rose and fell, and as Sarutobi Hiruzen officially became the third Hokage, the hearts of the Konoha villagers were completely settled. Soon after the ceremony, everyone left and started to deal with their own affairs, and Sarutobi Hiruzen also started to get busy. That night, Sarutobi Hiruzen directly entertained a group of high-level officials of Konoha village. In addition to the elders, there were also the director of Konoha Hospital, the patriarchs of some large families, etc. While eating, they discussed the next development of the village. Question. It wasn't until late at night that the banquet ended, and Dong Shenyao went home to rest. The next morning, Dong Shenyao was woken up before he woke up. Yao, get up quickly, the sun is drying your ass. I said. Tsunade, what time is it? Dong Shenyao rubbed his eyes and muttered in dissatisfaction. It's already past 6 o'clock, Yao, why don't you get up yet? Didn't you tell me before that the day's plan depends on the morning? Now it's time to get up and practice. Tsunade said with a stern face. Okay, I'll get up now. Dong Shenyao had no choice but to get up. Half an hour later, the two sat outside in the breakfast shop. Tsunade, why did you come to see me so early today? Dong Shenyao asked curiously while eating breakfast, knowing that Tsunade hadn't come in the morning for a while. People just want to see you. Yao, you know, you were really handsome yesterday. Tsunade said with Yuhi's heart in his eyes. Really? Seeing Tsunade say that to himself, Tashinyao was naturally very happy. Where did you get that suit, Yao? I want one too. Tsunade looked at Dong Shenyao with a look of anticipation on his face. I designed it myself. If you want it, I will take you to make a set. Dong Shenyao unceremoniously put the designer of the clothes on himself. Okay, Tsunade agreed directly. Yao, you are so talented that you can even design clothes. After breakfast, because it was still early, the clothes shop hadn't opened yet, so the two of them just wandered around the village. Tsunade, don't you have a mission today? No, because Mr. Sarutobi succeeded Hokage, we didn't take the assignment during this time. By the way, Sarutobi, does he still have time to teach you now? Mr. Sarutobi himself has no time, but he often asks Shadow Clone to teach us. In this way, the two held hands and walked around the village of Konoha while chatting. The two of them were really golden boys and girls walking together, and many people were watching them. Look, isn't that the great elder Dong Shenyao? He's really handsome. Next to him is Tsunade Haim. He's so pretty. They won't be a couple, right? It's really a good match when they walk together. Hearing the discussion from the surrounding people, Tsunade shy Yuhi, but was very happy in his heart. Finally, the time came to 9 o'clock, and the clothing store had also opened. Dong Shenyao took Tsunade directly to make a tailor-made set of death fighters. Because he wanted to accompany Tsunade, Tashinyao put aside the ninja school affairs very unethically, and didn't even go to the Dark Blade. After dark, the two had dinner before Dong Shenyao sent Tsunade home. Time is like water, and it has been half a month since Sarutobi took the throne. In the past half month, Dong Shenyao's life has been very dull. Every day, he is either accompanying Tsunade or dealing with the ninja school and the Dark Blade. However, on this day, Dong Shenyao received a message that the new daimyo of Chen Jiguo was about to take the throne, and he was going to invite Konoha village to watch the ceremony. The daimyo succeeds, it should be Asuka. Chapter 347 The Kingdom of Dawn. After getting the news that the new name of Chen Jiguo was about to take office, Dong Shenyao couldn't sit still, because he knew that if there were no accidents, the new name of Chen Jiguo would probably be Asuka. Dong Shenyao hadn't seen Asuka for more than a year, and he really missed her at this time. Inviting people from Konoha village to watch the ceremony, it seems that I want to find Sarutobi Hiruzen. Thinking of this, Tashinyao immediately put down his work and found Sarutobi Hiruzen. Why are you here today, Dong Shenyao? Sarutobi Hiruzen looked a little surprised after seeing Dong Shenyao, because normally, Dong Shenyao would hardly come to him if he was okay. Sarutobi, I heard news from Chen Jiguo. Dong Shenyao didn't talk nonsense, and went straight to the point. Well, yes, the new name of Chen Jiguo is about to take office. The news just came that I want to invite people from our Konoha village to watch the ceremony. I was just discussing with the two consultants who to send. Hearing that, the Eastern god was overjoyed. It seems that it's just right. After thinking about it, Dong Shenyao said directly, Sarutobi, you also know that I have a close relationship with Chen Jiguo, so why don't you let me go this time? Pondering for a moment, Sarutobi said, all right, I'll leave the matter of Chen Jiguo to you. The kingdom of Chen is only a small country, not even a ninja village, so Sarutobi does not pay much attention to it. Getting Sarutobi Hiruzen's approval, Dong Shenyao was very happy, and immediately he did not stay any longer and left. Although I went to Tatsunokuni this time to see Asuka, no matter what, Tashinyao represented Konoha village, so naturally I couldn't go alone. Dong Shenyao first went to the Dark Blade, called Kudo-shun and Kimura Fumino, and asked them to go back to clean up. After Dong Shenyao went to the ninja school to explain it, he went straight home. Tsunade, who had just completed the mission, found Dong Shenyao. Tashinyao was not surprised by this, because it was already the norm. As long as Tsunade was okay, he would find Tashinyao. Yao, I don't have a task tomorrow, what do you think we should do tomorrow? Tsunade said with a smile on his face. Hearing that Dong Shenyao was a little embarrassed. That's Tsunade, I'm going to the kingdom of Chen tomorrow, I'm afraid I won't be able to accompany you. The kingdom of Chen, Yao, what are you doing there? Although it has been more than a year, Tsunade still has not forgotten the kingdom of Chen, because she suspects that there is some kind of relationship between the East God Yao and the princess of the kingdom of Chen, Asuka, so now Tsunade suddenly became nervous when he heard the kingdom of Tatsun. The new daimyo of Chen Jiguo succeeded to the throne. You also know that I have a close relationship with Chen Jiguo, so this time I will go to the ceremony on behalf of Konoha village. After hearing Dong Shenyao's explanation, Tsunade's suspicion did not disappear, but instead of asking further, she changed the subject, and Tsunade didn't go home until after dark. The night passed in a blink of an eye, and the next morning, Tashinyao left Konoha village with Kudo-shun and the two, and went straight to Chenjiguo. At this time, Kudo-shun and the two were no longer the little chunin they used to be. The two had reached the special Jonin level, and they were even weaker than Jonin in terms of strength. Moreover, the age of the two has reached 12 years old, and they have entered a period of rapid growth of ninja strength. In the next time, the strength of the two will improve by leaps and bounds. The three of them are not weak, so they came to the capital of the kingdom of Chen in the evening. After entering the city, the three came directly to the Daming Mansion. The three of them are not unfamiliar here, so Dong Shenyao will not talk about it, even Kudo-shun and the two have been here before. Knowing that Tashinyao was coming, Asuka hurriedly received the three in person. Because there were outsiders, Asuka did not show too much enthusiasm for Tashinyao, but the love in her eyes could not be concealed. East Shenyao, we meet again. Yeah, it's been more than a year. Asuka, you're even more beautiful. Dong Shenyao praised. Asuka immediately embarrassed Yuhi, but after taking care of Chen Jiguo for more than a year, Asuka can be regarded as a strong woman, and she quickly recovered. East Shenyao, you are more able to speak. Asuka, do you remember us? Kudo-jun pointed to himself and Kimura Fumino and asked. Naturally, I remembered that I had to thank you for protecting my father at the beginning. Hey, I didn't expect the little girl back then to become a big name now. It's amazing. Kudo-jun sighed. Why, can't I be a big name? Asuka raised her brows. It's not Asuka, don't get me wrong, that's not what I meant. Kudo-shun also reacted at this time, knowing that he had said the wrong thing, so he quickly apologized. It's alright, Kudo-jun is a member of Dongshenyao. He doesn't look at the face of the monk and looks at the face of the Buddha. Naturally, Asuka doesn't care. Because Tashin Kudo and the two were there, Tashinyao and Asuka didn't say much, just said some official words, and after taking out the gifts prepared by Konoha village, Asuka arranged accommodation for the three of them. Kudo-jun, you two stay here, I'll walk around. After arriving at the residence, Dong Shenyao didn't stay much, and after setting up the two, he left directly. Soon Dong Shenyao found Asuka in a small courtyard, and Asuka was obviously waiting for Dong Shenyao for a long time. He was not surprised when he saw him, but instead jumped directly into Dong Shenyao's arms. Yao, you finally came to see people, do you know how much people miss you? Asuka, I miss you too. Dong Shenyao hugged Asuka tightly and said. The two embraced each other and felt each other's body temperature, and the yard fell into silence for a while. I don't know how long ago, Asuka leaned in front of Dong Shenyao's chest and murmured, I really hope that time will stop at this moment, so that I can stay in your arms forever. Asuka, I'm sorry, I can't stay with you all the time. Dong Shenyao said apologetically. It's okay, I already knew this would happen from the moment I fell in love with you. Asuka shook her head. Yao, how long can you stay in the kingdom of Chen this time? I don't know, when will your succession ceremony start, Asuka? The day after tomorrow. I see, then after the succession ceremony is over, I will stay in the country of Chen for a while longer. Great, Asuka immediately cheered in excitement. Wave. After kissing Tashinyao on the cheek, Asuka shyly left his embrace. The two of them stayed in the courtyard for a long time, and it was not until late at night that Dong Shenyao left. Chapter 348 Unexpected Person. The beloved man is here. Asuka really wants Tenten to be with Tashinyori, but unfortunately this is impossible, especially now that Asuka is about to inherit the daimyo. She has a lot of things to do every day, so with Tashinyao spent very little time together. Fortunately, Dong Shenyao said before that he would stay in the country of Chen for a few more days, which made Asuka start to deal with the country of Chen with peace of mind. On the other hand, Tashinyao is the exact opposite of Asuka. Asuka is too busy to die, but Tashinyao is too busy to die. Although he also has some things to do in Shinjiguo, but now Kudo-shun and the two are by his side, which makes Dong Shenyao have to temporarily suppress the matter and deal with it after the succession ceremony is over. Originally, Dong Shenyao thought that everything would go smoothly, but at noon the next day when he arrived in the kingdom of Chen, an unexpected person came to the kingdom of Chen. Looking at the little girl who was looking at him with a smile on his face, Dong Shenyao was sweating coldly on his forehead. Well, Tsunade, why are you here? Yes, it was Tsunade who came, and not just her, but also Tsunade's two teammates, Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Of course I'm here on a mission. Tsunade said with a smile. Mission? What mission? I'll tell you this. Before Tsunade could speak, the nervous Jiraiya jumped out. Yesterday Tsunade specially asked the teacher to take over a mission from the kingdom of Tatsu, and escorted a caravan to the kingdom of Tatsu. After speaking with a smile, Jiraiya did not see Tsunade's ugly face, but Orochimaru was very wise, took 2 steps back, away from Jiraiya. Bang! Tsunade punched Jiraiya in the chest, sending Jiraiya flying with tremendous force. Boom! Jiraiya flew straight for more than 20 meters, and finally stopped when it hit the wall, but because of the strength, it knocked the wall directly. It's over. Orochimaru covered his forehead helplessly. He could already imagine the misery of Jiraiya. At the same time, Kudo-jun and Kimura Fumino both widened their eyes and looked at Tsunade in shock. As expected of Tsunadeheim, what a power! Playing Jiraiya, Tsunade regretted a little bit, not because she regretted playing Jiraiya, but because she thought at this time that Dong Shenyao is still here. If Jiraiya knew what Tsunade was thinking at this time, she would probably feel depressed and want to commit suicide. No, I actually let Dong Shenyao see such a violent side of me. He won't want me, will he? Thinking of this, Tsunade looked nervously at Dong Shenyao, but found that he was looking at him with a smile instead of a smile. Own. Don't think too much about Yao, I'm very gentle. Tsunade, did you come to the kingdom of Chen to see me? Dong Shenyao wouldn't care whether Jiraiya was beaten or not. What he really cared about was Tsunade's purpose in the kingdom of Chen. Up to now, Tashinyao has not thought about how to make Asuka and Tsunade get along with the two girls, so he doesn't want to let the two girls meet now. Seeing that Dong Shenyao didn't care about hitting Jiraiya, Tsunade couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief, and then put the matter aside for the time being, and instead explained, Yao, don't listen to Jiraiya's nonsense, they didn't come to Chenland on purpose. Well, it just happened to be a task. Well, I know, you saw this when you were watching Qianwu, and then happened to take over this task. I know, everything was a coincidence. Yes, Yao, you really understand me. Tsunade nodded repeatedly like a chicken pecking at rice. Orochimaru on the side was speechless. Didn't Tsunade hear that Toho Shinyao is speaking the opposite? Orochimaru suddenly realized that when Tsunade, who was originally smart, met Tashinyao, his IQ would become 0. At this time, poor Jiraiya had been forgotten. Tsunade's blow just now was not light, and he directly injured Jiraiya. At this time, he was lying in the rubble. Tsunade, is your mission over? Well, it's over. Then when are you going back? Go back. Don't worry, I don't have a mission anyway. I'm going to go back with you. Hearing Tsunade's words, Tashinyao had a headache. As usual, I would be very happy to be with Tsunade with Tashinyao, but not now, Asuka is here. What should I do? Dong Shenyao suddenly realized that it's not a good thing to peddle two boats, because if one is not resolved, it may trigger the Shira field. Yao, are you not welcoming me here? Just as Tashinyao was thinking about things, Tsunade spoke again. How could that be? I welcome it very much. How could Dong Shenyao admit it? This is not the place to talk, let's go into the room and talk about it. Said, Dong Shenyao didn't care whether Tsunade agreed or not, he directly pulled her into the room. Seeing this, Kudo-shun and the two returned to their rooms very wisely. As for Orochimaru, they went to Jiraiya, and poor Jiraiya was finally taken care of. After entering the room, Tsunade dragged Dong Shenyao to chat, and at this time Dong Shenyao was nervous. Where was he in the mood to chat with Tsunade? He could only pray that Asuka would not come. But sometimes it is a spirit that is good but not bad. Dong Shenyao just thought about Asuka not coming, and Asuka is coming. Are you there? Asuka's voice came from outside the room. Who is this? Yao, it seems to be looking for you. Tsunade was also very nervous now, but he didn't show it, instead it was very natural. Oh, nothing, I'll go out and have a look. After speaking, Dong Shenyao quickly got up and walked out of the room. Asuka, you are here. Yao, what's wrong with you here? Why did the courtyard wall collapse? Asuka pointed to the ruins not far away. As for Jiraiya, she has been taken to other rooms for healing. Oh, it's okay, someone was discussing here just now, and I'll fix it for 3.0 now. This kind of thing couldn't be easier for Dong Shenyao. As his thoughts moved, the walls quickly recovered. By the way, Asuka, you haven't said that you have anything to do with me. After finishing the courtyard wall, Dong Shenyao asked again. It's okay, I'm just here to inform you that the ceremony will start at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, don't forget it. Actually, Asuka just wanted to see Tashinyao, otherwise, just find a subordinate to inform you about this kind of thing. Oh, I see. Dong Shenyao didn't notice Asuka's thoughts. He wanted to send Asuka away as soon as possible, but obviously, his wish could not be realized. Yo, who is this sister? As he spoke, Tsunade had already walked over to Dong Shenyao's side and took his arm lightly. Chapter 349 Shira Field. After Tsunade walked to Tashinyao's side, as if to declare his sovereignty, he directly grabbed Tashinyao's arm. After seeing Tsunade's actions, Asuka's expression changed slightly, but she was about to become a daimyo. Although Asuka was still young, she already had a castle, so her complexion soon returned to normal. Hello this sister, my name is Asuka, the name of Chen Jiguo's upcoming successor, please give me more advice. Hello sister, my name is Tsunade, and my grandfather is the first Hokage. Although the two women were sisters at this time, and they both had smiles on their faces, Dong Shenyao seemed to feel an air of gunpowder smoke. At this time, he didn't know what to say, so he could only keep silent for a while. It turns out that my sister turned out to be the granddaughter of the first Hokage, but I don't know if my sister is worthy of this status. Whether it's worthy or not, other people will naturally say it, but I didn't expect my sister to be a big name in Chen Jiguo at a young age. I really admire my sister. Hey, I can't help it. For the sake of this country, my sister and I can only shoulder the heavy burden. Asuka said sadly. At this moment, Tsunade suddenly sympathized with Asuka 15. As the saying goes, knowing oneself and knowing one's enemies is a good thing. After realizing that Asuka might become his rival in love, Tsunade specially investigated Asuka, and she found out that Asuka has no relatives anymore. And, at a young age, he has to shoulder the responsibility of a country, which has to be admired by Tsunade. At this time, after recalling Asuka's life experience, Tsunade suddenly found that she was not so miserable, at least she still had a mother and a younger brother, and she didn't need to shoulder any responsibilities. Compared with Asuka, she was so happy. Tsunade is kind-hearted, and after thinking of Asuka's tragic life experience, her hostility to Asuka suddenly diminishes. My elder sister is really amazing, my younger sister admires it. Although Tsunade had said this once before, but this time it was her heartfelt. Both Tashinya and Asuka noticed the change in Tsunade. Although they didn't know why this happened, Tashinya was happy, and Asuka's hostility towards Tsunade also weakened. When my sister arrives in the country of Chen, I don't let you know in advance. As the owner of this place, my sister can do her best as a landlord. My sister, I just arrived today, and my sister is about to become a famous name. I must be very busy, so I don't need to trouble my sister. Yao spent some time in the country of Chen before, so I should be very familiar with this place, so let him accompany me. Although the hostility has been weakened, some things will not be handed over because of this, such as Dong Shenyao. Yao is also a guest. There is no reason to let the guest accompany the guest. Let me accompany my sister. After speaking, Asuka took Dong Shenyao's other hand and walked out of the yard. Asuka also went out of her way, directly letting go of the Tatsuno country and preparing to compete with Tsunade for Dong Shenyao. Sensing Tsunade's threatening gaze, Tashinyao felt uneasy in his heart, but he couldn't let go of Asuka because of that. Tashinyao knew that it would definitely hurt Asuka's heart. Knows that he is the only Jinchuriki column in Asuka's heart now, and if he abandons Asuka again, Tashinyao can't imagine what Asuka will become. Tsunade, let's go together. After speaking, Dong Shenyao ignored Tsunade's gaze, held Asuka in one hand and Tsunade in the other, and the three of them left the yard just like that. What are the three of them doing? In the room, Kudo-jun, who had been secretly watching the situation outside, asked. Yao's situation is very bad. Although he said that, Kimura Fumino had a gloating expression on his face. Orochimaru watched silently and didn't speak, but Jiraiya didn't care about his injuries at this time, and stared at Dong Shenyao viciously, whispering something in his mouth, but because the voice was too low, others also listened unclear. At this time, except Kudo-shun, the other three have already seen that Tsunade and Asuka both have a good impression of Tashinyao. Most of the people in Konoha village knew about the relationship between Dongshinyao and Tsunade. Even Jiraiya was no exception, but he never wanted to believe it. However, Kimura Fumino and the others did not expect that even the daimyo of Chen Jiguo, who was about to succeed him, would have such feelings for Dongshinyao. For a while, Kimura Fumino and Jiraiya were envious of Dongshinyao. After all, being liked by two excellent women was something they couldn't ask for. But if Dongshinyao knew what the two were thinking, he would probably cry because he didn't enjoy it at all. Seeing that Dongshinyao didn't let go of herself, Asuka was overjoyed. In fact, she was also a little scared just now. She was afraid that Dongshinyao would make a choice and leave her directly. At this point Tsunade had already confirmed that Tashinyao and Asuka did have a secret relationship, but she didn't reveal it, but pretended she didn't know anything and let Asuka take her around. At this time, Dongshinyao was sandwiched between two women, but he couldn't be happy, because both of their small hands were quietly placed on his waist and pinched, and suddenly Dongshinyao's face became very ugly, although it was very painful, but he could only bite Kiba and endure it. Although Dongshinyao was suffering at this time, he was relieved, because the situation at this time was at least different from what he expected. Although the atmosphere was a bit strange, at least 087 did not appear in the Shira field. On this day, Dongshinyao had been accompanying the two daughters, and under the leadership of Asuka, the three of them traveled around the capital of Chen Kingdom, but Dongshinyao's energy had been on the two daughters, but he was reluctant to go. Enjoy the view. On the other hand, the two women seemed to have forgotten about Dongshinyao, and kept talking about various scenery. In the end, the more they talked, the more harmonious they became, and they left Dongshinyao directly. Follow behind. This situation made Dongshinyao secretly happy, because he wished the two girls would forget him. It was not until dusk that the three of them returned to Daming Mansion. After dinner, it was time to rest. Just when Dongshinyao thought everything would pass safely, Asuka suddenly said, "Tsunade, what is your relationship with Yao?" Of course it's a romantic relationship. By the way, Asuka, how about you? Just like you. After speaking, the two were silent, and then the two women looked at Dongshinyao with a tacit understanding, waiting for his answer. Dongshin showed me for a long time, but he didn't say a complete sentence. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival, today's 5 watch, this is the second watch. Chapter 350 Temporary Crisis. Being stared at by the two women, Dongshinyao suddenly broke out in cold sweat, and soon the clothes on his back were soaked with sweat. Well, what are you looking at me for? Yao, who is this woman from you? Tsunade pointed at Asuka at this time and questioned Tashinyolai. Yao, what is your relationship with this woman? Asuka also pointed to Tsunade and asked. At this time, Dongshinyao's head was big for a while. He originally thought that he would pass the day safely, but he didn't expect that it would break out at night in the end. Looking at the two girls, Dongshinyao suddenly bit Kiba, and then directly hugged the two girls in his arms at the same time. You are all my women. After saying this, Dongshinyao watched the two girls nervously, wanting to see how they reacted. The two women were stunned when they heard the words. They did not expect that Dongshinyao would give such an answer. This result not only relieved the two women, but also caused a burst of dissatisfaction. East God Yao, do you want to peddle 2 boats? Tsunade stared at East God Yao dissatisfiedly. On the other hand, Asuka fell into contemplation at this time. Tsunade, I can't give up on both of you. Dongshinyao said helplessly. Sister Tsunade, don't embarrass Tashinya anymore. At this time, Asuka even followed suit. No, I must speak clearly today. Tashinyao, can you avoid it for a while? I want to talk to Tsunade alone. Asuka looked up at Tashinyao and said. This. Dongshinyao hesitated a bit. He was afraid that if he was not in a fight between the two women, it would be over by then. Don't worry, we won't fight. Asuka smiled as if seeing Tashinyao's concern. However, Tashinyao didn't feel relieved because he was most worried about Tsunade. Tashinyao believed that Asuka wouldn't mess up, but he couldn't guarantee that Tsunade wouldn't do anything when he was angry. "Come on, I won't do anything to your Asuka," Tsunade said with some dissatisfaction. "Ah, then I'll go first." Seeing Tsunade also promised, Dong Shenyao breathed a sigh of relief, and then left quickly. But Dong Shenyao didn't go far, he just waited in the yard. "Okay, Dong Shenyao has left, do you have anything to say to me?" "Sister Tsunade, in fact, you don't have to worry so much. I'm the name of the country of Chen, and I'm destined to stay in the country of Chen in this life, and Yao is the ninja of Konoha village, he will spend most of the time in Konoha village. So there will be very little time for me and Yao to meet." Asuka spoke with resentment in her tone, although she loved Dongshin Yao deeply, but when she thought that the people of Chen Jiguo still needed herself, Asuka could only suppress it. The love for Dongshin Yao chose to stay in the country of Chen. Tsunade was stunned. She didn't expect Asuka to say such a thing to herself. She originally thought that Asuka was trying to persuade herself to leave Tashinyao. But after being surprised, Tsunade was thoughtful. Hearing Asuka's words, Tsunade felt some sympathy for her, and her heart was indeed a little shaken. Asuka is right, she can't accompany Yo in Konoha village, so Yo is equivalent to only me as a lover in Konoha village. Thinking of Tashinyo's embarrassment before, Tsunade had an idea in his mind. "You're right, you really don't pose much of a threat to me, well, I can allow you to exist." At this time, Tsunade was like the lord of the harem, while Asuka became a concubine. But Asuka doesn't care about it, as long as she can become a woman of Tashinyao, other Asuka don't care. "Thank you Tsunade sister." "Don't thank me, I just see you as pitiful," Tsunade said pretending not to care. In fact, Tsunade agreed not only because Asuka was no threat to her, but mainly because of the general environment of this world. There was no so-called monogamy in the Hokage world, and those dignitaries also had groups of wives and concubines. It's just that ninjas rarely do this. Most ninjas are monogamous, or even have no wives, because ninjas basically spend their lives in training or fighting, and they don't have much time to fall in love. And most ninjas can't guarantee when they will die, and they can't even guarantee their own lives, so how can they spend their energy on women? It was because of this big environment that Tsunade agreed to Asuka's existence so easily. In the same way, Asuka was the princess of the kingdom of Chen before, and she was used to seeing 3 wives and 4 concubines. So Asuka didn't really care how many women Tashinyao had. "Sister Tsunade, it's not me who you should really be careful with, but the women of your Konoha village." "What do you mean by that?" Tsunade looked puzzled. "For a man as good as Yao, there must be many women who like him, so you have to be careful, or Yao will be taken away by other women." "Cut, if Konoha village has me watching, he won't have the chance to meet other women." Although he said that, Tsunade was really nervous. Asuka just smiled when she heard the words, but didn't say anything. When Tashinyao saw the 2 girls come out, his eyes widened in shock, because he found that the 2 girls, Asuka and Tsunade, were chatting and laughing like sisters. Although the 2 women were also called older sisters and younger sisters before, Dong Shenyao was able to detect the smell of gunpowder between the 2 women. But now, he found that the relationship between the 2 women has really improved. What the hell happened? When Dong Shenyao was in a daze, the 2 women had already walked to his side, and then took his arms from left to right. "You are this. Yao, we have already discussed, we will all be your women from now on." Hearing Tsunade's words, Dong Shenyao instantly realized that he was so happy, but he still couldn't imagine it. "Did you really agree?" The 2 women smiled alike and nodded at the same time. As for why this happened, the 2 women would not explain to Dong Shenyao. Seeing that there is nothing to ask, Dong Shenyao can only give up. Anyway, the result is good now. It was getting late, and tomorrow was the day when Asuka took over as the daimyo, so the 3 of them soon went back to rest. In the blink of an eye, the time has come to the 2nd day. Chapter 351 Changes in the Kingdom of Chen. The next morning, Dong Shenyao and the others got up early. After breakfast, they were led by a special person to the square in the center of the capital. Unlike the daimyo succession of the Land of Fire, the place where Asuka's succession ceremony was held was outside the daimyo mansion, where people could also come to watch the ceremony. From this, we can see the difference between the Land of Chen and the Land of Fire. When Dong Shenyao and the others came to the square in the center of the city, they found that there were already a lot of people around. Most of them were ordinary people, and there was a high platform built in the center of the square. Because the time had not yet come, Asuka did not show up. As time passed, there were more and more people around the square. Although no one maintained order, there was no chaos here, and everyone spontaneously obeyed the order. Finally, the time came to 8 o'clock. With the sound of gongs and drums, the crowd separated, and a large group of people walked in. There was a sedan chair in the group, and the sedan chair was surrounded by veils, so everyone could only vaguely I saw a figure in the sedan chair, and I couldn't see who this person was. However, it can be guessed that the person sitting in the sedan chair must be today's protagonist, the future name of Chen Jiguo, Asuka. 550. The team stopped in front of the high platform in the center of the square, and then saw a petite figure walking down from the sedan chair. This person was Asuka. Today, Asuka's dress is different from usual. At this time, Asuka is dressed in formal clothes. The expression on her face is also a little serious, and her body is full of power. In the crowd, Dong Shenyao looked at Asuka at this time, and a sense of pride emerged in his heart, because she was such a strong woman, but he was Dong Shenyao's woman. Soon the succession ceremony began, and everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. In the blink of an eye, 3 hours passed, and the ceremony was almost over. Asuka took the crown and put it on her head, and then took the jade seal. At this moment, she officially became the name of Chen Jiguo. Seeing this scene, Dong Shenyao knew that it was time for him to appear. Instructing Tsunade and the three to stay here, Tashinyao adjusted his clothes and entered the square with Kudo-shun and the two. When Dong Shenyao walked to the high platform, he shouted loudly, "Today, I, Dong Shenyao, on behalf of Konoha village, signed an alliance with Chen Jiguo and became an ally." Then, after receiving 2 scrolls from Kimura Fumino, Tashinyao handed it to Asuka. This time, Dong Shenyao, the kingdom of Chen, came with a mission. The ceremony was actually just a statement. The real purpose was to sign a covenant. Although Konoha village and Tatsuno country have signed a covenant before, but since both the Tatsuno country daimyo and the Hokage of Konoha village have been replaced, they also need to sign a new covenant. With a smile at Dong Shenyao, Asuka took the 2 scrolls and didn't read the contents, so she directly stamped the Yuhi seal with the jade seal. At this point, it represented that the 2 forces officially became allies. Of course, this was just a nice sound. The kingdom of Chen can only be regarded as a vassal of the kingdom of Fire and Konoha village, because it can only be called an ally if the strength is similar or not much different. Immediately afterwards, the representative of the country of Fire also came to power and signed a covenant with Asuka. After all this was done, it represented the official end of the succession ceremony. Asuka left with the team, and Dong Shenyao took everyone back to the Daming mansion. "Asuka is really majestic today," Tsunade said with some envy. "You can do it if you're envious." "Me, how could I become a daimyo?" Tsunade said after giving Dong Shenyao a blank look. "It's not a daimyo, you can be a Hokage, isn't it the same?" "Yeah," Tsunade's eyes lit up after hearing Dong Shenyao's reminder, but she soon shook her head again. "Forget it, when Hokage is too tired." Thinking of Sarutobi Hiruzen's busy work every day, Tsunade suddenly lost interest. "If this is heard by those who wish to become Hokage, I am afraid they will vomit blood with anger. It's impossible for other people to become Hokage, but Tsunade is too tired." Tashinyao understands this very well. With Tsunade's character, he naturally doesn't like being a Hokage. If there is no way out in the original book, Tsunade would not agree to become a Hokage. In fact, the reason why Tsunade didn't want to become Hokage was because she was selfish, but Tsunade knew that Hokage was very busy all day. Once she became Hokage, wouldn't she have no time to accompany Dongshenyao in the future? If Tashinyao knew Tsunade's true thoughts, I don't know how moved he would be. Because Asuka has just become a daimyo, and she stayed with Dongshenyao and the others for nearly a day yesterday, and had a lot of backlog, so today is very busy, and there is no time to see Dongshenyao at all. It was not until the evening that Dongshenyao paid a courtesy visit to Asuka and talked about his departure tomorrow. Asuka didn't care about this, because she had already discussed with Dongshenyao privately, and Dongshenyao would let the Earth clone back, and his body would stay in the country of Chen for a while. Early the next morning, Dongshen Yaodao took everyone out of the country of Chen, but they did not know that what they saw at this time was not Dongshenyao himself, but his Earth avatar. Digesting the memory of the clone. Just after Tsunade and the others left, Dongshenyao had time to cancel the 3 Earth avatars that had been left in the country of Chen, and the memory of the avatars suddenly flooded into Dongshenyao's mind, and he received 3 avatars in an instant. The memory of the clone for more than a year, even Dongshenyao can't stand it, he just feels like his head is about to explode. It's a misstep, I knew this would happen one by one. At this time, Dongshenyao regretted it, but because he had no previous experience, he didn't expect such a thing to happen at all. It took more than 10 minutes for Dongshenyao to recover, but at this time he just got used to the sudden increase in memory, and he will take some time to sort out these memories. As Dongshenyao kept sorting out the memories of the Earth clone, he also had a detailed understanding of the changes in Chen Jiguo over the past year. Although the Earth clone is teaching those orphans to practice most of the time, it is also aware of the changes in the country of Chen. In the past year, Asuka has worked hard to develop the military and enhance the strength of the army, in addition to allowing the country of Chen to eliminate the damage caused by the war. Although this is the world of Hokage, the ninjas are the ones who really affect the battle, but the army is not useless. In the previous war with the country of Chuan, the army of the country of Chen was inferior to that of the country of Chuan, which made Asuka suffer a lot. Chapter 352 Daily Life in Konoha Village. At this time, the kingdom of Chen has undergone tremendous changes from a year ago. Although the wounds caused by the previous war cannot be completely erased, but it has also weakened a lot, and the people of the kingdom of Chen have gradually emerged from the shadow of the war. After walking out, the economy of Chen Jiguo has also recovered. It can be said that the country of Chen is now showing a thriving scene, and it is precisely because of this that Asuka will choose to officially succeed the position of the daimyo at this time. After checking the development of Chen Jiguo, Dongshenyao began to carefully check the memory of teaching those orphans to practice. From the memory of the Earth avatar, Dongfang Shenyao found that these orphans are very serious in their cultivation, and it can even be said that they are desperate. Small progress, although still no one has reached genin, but it has surpassed the ordinary soldier. Nodding with satisfaction, Dongshenyao knew that after the arrival of World War II, these people will also grow up thoroughly, and it is time for Chen Jiguo to take revenge. That night, Asuka found Dongshenyao after a busy day. No one bothered them this time. This moment belonged to them. Dongshenyao stayed in the country of Chen for a total of half a month. During this period, in addition to accompanying Asuka, Dongshenyao did not forget to re-separate the earth to teach those orphans. With the improvement of Dongshenyao's strength, the strength of his earth avatars has also increased at this time, each of which is no weaker than the elite Jonin, and the 3 earth avatars combined can compete against the quasi-shadow. It has been half a month in the country of Chen, and Dongshenyao is ready to go back to Konoha. Although there is also an earth clone in Konoha village, he still wants to go back. Asuka, I am leaving. Although it was expected that Dongshenyao would leave sooner or later, the day had come, and Asuka was still a little sad. Asuka, don't forget to practice in the future. When your strength improves, you can use Shadow Clone. When that time comes, let Shadow Clone help you handle official business together, and you can relax a little. Dongshenyao instructed. Although ordinary people can't use Shadow Clone to speed up their cultivation, it's not a problem to just let Shadow Clone help with official business. Well, don't worry, I will work hard to cultivate. The two slept together that day. Of course, because they were both young, nothing happened. Early the next morning, Asuka waited on Dong Xinyao and put on clothes like a little wife. After breakfast, Ta Xinyao said goodbye to Asuka and set out on the road to return to Konoha. In the afternoon, Dong Xinyao returned to Konoha. Although there was a barrier in the village, Dong Xinyao couldn't help it. Relying on the technique of escaping, Dong Xinyao entered the village unknowingly. When Dong Xinyao found the Earth Avatar, he found that he was cultivating in the Dark Blade headquarters, and there was no one around. Dong Xinyao directly released the Earth Avatar, and the memory of the Earth Avatar suddenly flooded into Dong Shenyao's mind. Because it was only more than half a month, there were not many memories. Dong Shenyao was not as uncomfortable as last time, and soon he digested the memory of the Earth clone. After checking it, Dong Shenyao found that nothing major happened in the village for more than 10 days. Every day, the Earth clone only went to the ninja school, and then came to the Dark Blade for a walk. If Tsunade is in the village, he will accompany Tsunade to practice. If not, he will practice by himself. It can be said that the life of the Earth clone is very monotonous. It's not that he is afraid of being discovered, but that Dong Shenyao has done this before. Should I find something to do? After digesting the memory of the Earth Avatar, Dong Shenyao suddenly found that this kind of life seemed a little too boring. Did I stay like this in the village until the beginning of World War II? At this moment, Dong Shenyao realized that he really should do something. But this matter can't be rushed. After all, the first battle has just ended, and there are still some things in the village that need to be handled by him. A new day has begun, because Tsunade is not in the village today, so Dong Shenyao can also sleep well without being woken up early by Tsunade. After getting up, I ate some bread for breakfast at random. After cleaning up, I left the house and went to the ninja school. When Dong Shenyao came to the school had already started classes. Dong Shenyao wandered around the school and asked the teacher who had no class. After learning that there was nothing in the school, Dong Shenyao left the school directly. His next stop is the Dark Blade headquarters. At this time, the main task of Dark Blade was to train new recruits, so he did not take any tasks. When Dong Shenyao came to the headquarters of Dark Blade, the members of Dark Blade were all here. Everyone was accustomed to Dong Shenyao's arrival, so after saying hello, they each went about their own business. After turning around in the Dark Blade and finding that there was nothing to intervene, Dong Shenyao left the Dark Blade headquarters again and came to the Hokage office. Ta Shenyao, you are quite free. Sarutobi Hiruzen felt envious when he saw Ta Shenyao. Haha, no way, who made you Hokage? Dong Shenyao laughed proudly. You kid, hey, I just found out now that we were all deceived by you at that time. You look at the elders now, and you are the most leisurely. The words of Sarutobi Hiruzen were immediately approved by the Tuho Muramitokado. The work of other elders is not very easy. Even Naraji is now often drawn by Sarutobi Hiruzen to help with official duties. Just wander around these two places. Dark Blade 3.6 is still in the initial stage, at least the general framework has been completed, so it is easier than Danzo, because now Danzo is starting from scratch, first to find people to set up the route, and then to choose the headquarters address, etc., much busier than Dong Shenyao. Moreover, because of the previous war, Dark Blade has lost a lot of personnel, so he is not accepting the task now, which makes Dong Shenyao do not have to worry about it at all. As for the ninja school, it was the busiest time for new students to enter and graduate, and other times were relatively relaxed, so Dong Shenyao was so leisurely every day, which made many people in the elders envy and jealous. Sarutobi Hiruzen in the office, passing the boring time, and at the same time looking at the tasks to see if there was something suitable for him, so that he could find something to do. Chapter 353 Special Task. Dong Shenyao found that although there are many tasks in Sarutobi Hiruzen, these tasks are not difficult, and there is no need to use a ninja of the level of Dong Shenyao. I said Sarutobi, don't you have some difficult tasks here? What, are you on a mission? Sarutobi Hiruzen was a little surprised. Yeah, I've been too busy recently, I'm bored to death. Dong Shenyao complained. I said, Dong Shenyao, are you here today to piss me off? If you're really too busy, help me with some official business. Don't. Dong Shenyao refused outright, joking, dealing with official duties is even more boring. Sarutobi, I said, do you have a task here that is suitable for me? No, Dong Shenyao, you are now a powerhouse comparable to cage level no matter what. How can a task that suits you easily appear? That's right. Shaking his head, Dong Shenyao put down the quest scroll, then got up and walked out of the room. Where are you going, Dongshan 15 Yao? Of course I'm going home, it's too boring here. After speaking, Dong Shenyao left the room under the envious gazes of Yuan Fei and others. By the way, Sarutobi has no tasks here, I can look at the system. Dong Shenyao suddenly thought that he hadn't looked at the system's task panel for a while. No one else could see the quest panel anyway, so Dong Shenyao summoned the quest panel directly from the street. At this time, there are still several tasks on the task panel, but these tasks are impossible for Dong Shenyao to complete in a short period of time, such as destroying the Uchiha family, and helping the kingdom of Chen rise, etc., not only difficult, but also very complicated. However, Dong Shenyao soon discovered several new missions at the bottom of the mission panel. D-level quests. Complete 9 D-level ninja quests. Quest reward. 9 God creation points. Damn, just kidding, let me be the dignified Konoha village elder to do the D-level quest, isn't that telling Sarutobi and the others to laugh at me, can't take it. Dong Shenyao directly passed this quest and turned to the next quest. C-level mission. Peeping at a female Jonin's bath. Mission reward. 30 God-making points. Hey, there's still such a task, not bad. Bah, I mean, it's so obscene. As he spoke, Dong Shenyao took over the task. It would be said that he was looking at beautiful women, but he did this entirely for the sake of making gods. Anyway, whether other people believed it or not, Dong Shenyao believed it himself. There are other tasks below this task, so Dong Shenyao did not close the task panel, but continued to read it. Then Dong Shenyao found several D-level and C-level tasks on the task panel. Some let him snatch children's lollipops, and some let him steal women's underwear. In short, they were all very simple tasks, but it's a bit wretched, which makes Dong Shenyao very suspicious of whether the system is designed to make him a god or to cultivate him into a lecherous wolf. But no matter what the purpose of the system releasing these quests is, for the sake of creating magic, Dong Shenyao took over most of the quests. Of course, Dong Shenyao didn't take the kind of quest to snatch children's lollipops, because this kind of task is too rude. What? You say stealing women's underwear is also a loss of morals? Well, Dong Shenyao said that he has no morals anyway. However, in addition to these D-level and C-level small tasks, Dong Shenyao also took on some high-level tasks. One of them was a B-level quest that had him join an underground exchange and become a bounty hunter. After seeing this mission, Dong Shenyao's eyes lit up, and only then did he think of the underground exchange that appeared in the original book. There is no quest suitable for me in Sarutobi, but I can go to the underground exchange to have a look. There are all kinds of quests there. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao couldn't wait, not only to complete the quest, but also to kill boring time. Of course, the most important thing is that Dong Shenyao also hopes to improve his strength through battle. But in the end, Dong Shenyao suppressed his excitement. Although it was easy to join the underground exchange, Dong Shenyao couldn't use his true identity to join, and he couldn't let the ninjas in Konoha village know. Who accept the quests in the underground exchange are basically wandering ninjas or missing nin. As for the ninjas in various ninja villages, I can't say no, but these people hide their identities, because under normal circumstances, the ninja villages do not. Those who allow ninjas in their village to go outside to take quests can only take quests in the village, even if Dongshin Yaogui is the great elder. Seeing that it was still early, Dong Shenyao was not in a hurry to go home, because he still had a few tasks to complete. The first is to peek at a female Jonin's bath. This seems a bit simple, but the key is where do I go to find a female Jonin? Suddenly Dong Shenyao realized that he seemed to be deceived. Are fewer women among ninjas, and even fewer reach Jonin. Damn it. Damn system, I knew it couldn't be that simple. Desperation, Dong Shenyao could only think carefully about the female Jonin 887 in the village. Fortunately, it is easy to remember because of the number of female Jonin. After thinking for a while, Dong Shenyao quickly determined a goal. Hey, I'm here. In the blink of an eye, the sky had dimmed, and Dong Shenyao, who had been tired all day, finally returned home. Yes, he did have a tiring day. Today, he has done a lot of tasks. Although it is not difficult, it is troublesome. Like the task of peeping at the female Jonin taking a bath, Dong Shenyao found 5 female Jonin in a row to complete it. The others either didn't take a bath or went out to perform the task. This is the end. However, Dong Shenyao also gained some benefits. After sitting down these tasks, he also got nearly 300 God building points. Although it is not much, does it add up to a lot. After returning home, Dong Shenyao directly entered the space of creating the gods. This time, he didn't come in to take the quest, but to exchange it. During this time, Dong Shenyao used Mangekyo Sharingan many times. The power of soul control is amazing, but it consumes a lot of energy. Even if he has life force and inner force to nourish his pupils, his left eye is still a little blurry, and his vision is poor. Changed. Sharingan skills unscrupulously in the future, Dong Shenyao is ready to upgrade Sharingan again. Chapter 354 Eternal Mangekyo. Ordinary Uchiha clan ninjas want to upgrade Mangekyo Sharingan to the eternal level, they need to replace Mangekyo Sharingan with their own brothers. It's a pity that Dong Shenyao has no brothers, but he has a system, and it is not difficult to raise Sharingan to the eternal level. Now Dong Shenyao has 2 options, one is to directly exchange the eternal Mangekyo, and the other is to upgrade the ordinary Uchiha bloodline to the perfect level. According to the system, his Mangekyo Sharingan will be directly promoted to Eternal Eye. Dong Shenyao can't tell which of these 2 methods is good or bad, but after thinking about it, he still decided to upgrade his bloodline instead of directly exchanging it for Eternal Mangekyo, because no matter how the bloodline is improved, it is always good, and the most important thing is, it only takes 50,000 God-making points to exchange for the perfect Uchiha bloodline, but if you directly exchange for Eternal Mangekyo, you need 90,000 God-making points. After weighing the pros and cons, Dong Shenyao will make the present choose. System, I want to exchange for the perfect Uchiha bloodline. Uchiha bloodline perfect S-level exchange items. Need 50,000 God-making points. Do you want to exchange? Yes. As Dong Shenyao's voice fell, a golden light Jinchuriki column shone down, and Dong Shenyao's whole body was irradiated in it. The golden light Jinchuriki column, Dong Shenyao once again felt the pain that made people want to die, but because he had experienced it many times, Dong Shenyao had some immunity. This time the performance is better than the previous few times. After a few minutes, the light Jinchuriki column disappeared, and Dong Shenyao sat on the ground of the God creation space and kept breathing heavily. It took more than 10 minutes before he recovered. Let's see what it looks like. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao took off his pupils, opened the Sharingan, and then gathered a mirror and began to look at it. Generally, after the people of the Uchiha family open the Eternal Mangekyo, the pattern in the eyes is the fusion of 2 Mangekyo Sharingan shapes, but the situation of Dong Shenyao is special. What will the Eternal Mangekyo become? Soon Dong Shenyao's Sharingan had changed to what it was before Mangekyo was opened, but it didn't end. I saw the 3-edged shuriken in Dong Shenyao's eyes spinning rapidly, and finally turned into a shuriken like the shape of a snowflake-like 6-edged shuriken, and because of Byakugan, this 6-edged shuriken is white throughout, so it looks more like a snowflake. At this time, Dong Shenyao's Sharingan and Byakugan have merged together unconsciously. As long as one is opened, the other will be opened. And at the moment when the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan appeared, Dong Shenyao felt the surging pupil power from his eyes, which was not comparable to the Mangekyo period. At this moment Dong Shenyao not only recovered his vision, but also better than before. At the same time, Dong Shenyao found that his pupil technique seemed to have also evolved. Under normal circumstances, Eternal Mangekyo's pupil technique is a collection of 2 Mangekyo Sharingan, but Dong Shenyao's Eternal Mangekyo is not evolved by transplanting other Sharingan, so there are still only 2 pupil techniques, but they have been sublimated and their abilities have been greatly enhanced, but how much stronger it has become, it still needs to be developed slowly by Dong Shenyao. Put away the Eternal Eye. After Dong Shenyao put on the color contact lenses again, he checked the magic point. Before Dong Shenyao had more than 200,000 God building points, but at this time, after exchanging his perfect bloodline, he still had more than 190,000 God building points left. Although there are many, Dong Shenyao does not dare to use it indiscriminately. After all, it is a little difficult to earn God making points now. Then Dong Shenyao didn't stay in the space for creating the gods, and left here directly. Back to the outside world, Dong Shenyao found that there was a lot of sweat on his body, which made him very uncomfortable. He quickly went to the bathroom to take a shower, and then he became more comfortable. Ah, I finally opened the Eternal Eye. I don't need to be so careful when I use the pupil technique in the future. I just don't know how they will react if I use Susanoo in front of the Uchiha clan. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao suddenly broke down. Laughed. If Senju Tobarama was still alive, Dong Shenyao would still be afraid, but now, Dong Shenyao doesn't care about Sharingan's exposure, not only because he has the strength to crush the Uchiha clan, but also because Senju Tobarama is dead, and now the entire Konoha village had no one to fear. Ah, this feeling is really good, but I haven't used Susanoo since I got Mangekyo, so it looks like I'm going to give it a try. I saw Dong Shenyao standing in the room and shouting directly. Although it was already dark, but just got the Eternal Mangekyo, how could Dong Shenyao fall asleep? There was no one else at home anyway, so Dong Shenyao directly experimented. As time passed, the expression on Dong Shenyao's face became more and more exciting, from surprise at the beginning to excitement later. Ha ha ha, great, this ability is great. At this time, Dong Shenyao was overjoyed. Dong Shenyao Mangekyo Sharingan's left eye's ability was soul control, and his right eye was life control, but his left eye could only control other people's souls, and his right eye could only control Dong Shenyao's own life force. But now, although the ability of the right eye, Dong Shenyao, has not found any new changes, but the soul of the left eye controls Dong Shenyao and found that he is now able to control his own soul. The so-called control of his own soul is that Dong Shenyao discovered that he can open up a soul space. In this soul space, Dong Shenyao's soul power can move freely, and the entire space is under his control. This is an upgraded version of Tsukuyomi. Although the previous soul control can also strengthen the ability of demonic illusion, it is not as high as this soul space. Of course, although this ability is powerful, it also consumes a lot of energy. If only Dong Shenyao himself is in the soul space, it would be fine. If there are other people's souls, then the more the other party struggles, the greater the consumption of Dong Shenyao. And if Dong Shenyao wants to change the rules of time in the soul space, it will consume more, and it will not only consume Dong Shenyao's soul power, but also consume chakra. Even with Dong Shenyao's current strength, if you use the soul space to fight the enemy, you won't be able to last for too long. Chapter 355 Underground Exchange. A night passed in a blink of an eye, and a new day had begun. Although I slept less last night, after a few laps in the internal force, Dong Shenyao's sleepiness had been swept away. After getting up and having breakfast, Dong Shenyao went to the ninja school first, and then went to see the Dark Blade headquarters, just like yesterday, but when Dong Shenyao left the Dark Blade headquarters, it had already changed. Although other people could not see any difference, it was Dong Shenyao's Earth avatar who came out of the Dark Blade headquarters at this time, and Dong Shenyao himself had already left Konoha village secretly. Relying on the unique escaping technique, as long as Dong Shenyao enters the Earth, no one will be able to find him. It wasn't until he left Konoha village that he came out of the ground for more than 10 miles. Although no one would find him on his way through the earth, the surrounding environment was simple, and it would be a bit boring to watch it for a long time. But after coming up, Dong Shenyao used the transformation technique and turned into an ordinary-looking middle-aged man. It was convenient to travel in this way, and no one would recognize him. As the chief elder of Konoha village, Dong Shenyao was at this time it is also quite famous in the country of fire. Although the underground exchange is secret, it is only for ordinary people. For Konoha village, the underground exchange does not have many secrets, not only Konoha village, but also other major ninja villages. The forces beyond his control exist. If the underground exchange is really very secretive, then I am afraid that it has already caused the fear of the 5 ninja countries, and they will attack them in groups. The underground exchange has a history of hundreds of years. At the beginning, it was established by some rich people in the Hokage world to hire thugs. However, as time went by, this organization became larger and larger, and gradually became independent and became an independent organization. But even now, the managers of this organization have close ties with the world's richest people, and even with various major countries, otherwise it would not be possible to exist forever. Dong Shenyao had found some information about the underground exchange from Anbu's intelligence before, and his destination at this time was a stronghold of the underground exchange. Underground exchanges have branches all over the world, and the closest one to Konoha village is in a small town 30 miles away from Konoha village. Dong Shenyao did not deliberately hurry, but he came to this small town 2 hours later. Dong Shenyao didn't hang out in the town either. He entered a tavern directly, and then he ignored everyone's attention in the tavern and went directly into the toilet of the tavern. At this time, Dong Shenyao had to complain about the taste of underground exchanges, because most of the branch entrances of underground exchanges were related to toilets. Anbu before, Dong Shenyao quickly found a secret door on the ground. After triggering the mechanism, only a crisp sound was heard, and a stone slab on the ground was opened directly, revealing a hole. Dong Shenyao did not hesitate, and walked directly down the stone steps in the entrance of the cave. Just when Dong Shenyao's figure completely disappeared into the hole, the stone slab above closed again, and the toilet returned to calm. There are about 30 steps in the entrance of the cave. When Dong Shenyao reached the bottom, a long corridor appeared in front of him, and at the same time a man was sitting at the entrance of the corridor. "Nu," the man said after looking up at Dong Shenyao. "Yeah." Dong Shenyao didn't hide it either. "If you want to be a bounty hunter, you also need strength. If you can pass my assessment, then you can enter," the man said calmly, obviously already used to it. Dong Shenyao didn't speak, just looked at the man. Bang! Suddenly there was a muffled sound, and I saw that Dong Shenyao had punched the man in the heart, and the huge force directly knocked the man into the air. "Am I qualified?" Dong Shenyao looked at the man coldly and asked. "Cough cough cough, this lord, the villain has a lot of offenses and I hope you forgive me. Please come in." The man didn't mean to seek revenge on Dong Shenyao. After a few violent coughs, he quickly apologized, because he knew that Dong Shenyao is not something he can offend. Dong Shenyao didn't speak, and walked directly into the corridor. Where is this ruthless man from? His strength has definitely reached the level of Jonin. Touching his chest, the man looked at Dong Shenyao's back with palpitations. He had the strength of Chunin, but he didn't expect to be instantly defeated by Dong Shenyao. Instant kill. When Dong Shenyao walked to the end of the corridor, a wooden door appeared in his sight. Even through the wooden door, Dong Shenyao could hear the noise coming from inside. The underground exchange divisions are also graded. Generally, the low-level underground exchange divisions only have the function of accepting and publishing tasks, while some advanced underground exchange divisions can not only accept and publish tasks, but also have fun for bounty hunters. It is obvious that this underground exchange is not low-level. When Dong Shenyao pushed the door and entered, the sound of the wooden door opening caught the attention of many people. After Dong Shenyao stepped into the room, he looked around and found that many people were watching him at this time, but Dong Shenyao didn't care, and began to look at the environment here. Looking at it, Dong Shenyao found that there was not much difference between this place and the ordinary tavern, but the people who stayed here were all bounty hunters, so there was a bloody smell here. Frowning slightly, Dong Shenyao was not very happy with the smell here, and then he walked directly to the innermost counter of the tavern. Why haven't this person been seen before? Is he a newcomer? Who knows, maybe it's from another area. Many people were talking about it, but no one went up to talk to him. Soon Dong Shenyao came to the counter. Hello sir, what do you need? It was a young man who received Dong Shenyao. I'm taking a mission. Oh, what level of bounty hunter are you? I'm not at any level. Oh, so you are a newcomer, so let me introduce the rules here to you. The young man did not take it lightly because Dong Shenyao was a newcomer, but enthusiastically wanted to introduce the underground exchange to Dong Shenyao. No, I know it. Although Dong Shenyao came to the underground exchange for the first time, Dong Shenyao had already learned about the rules here from Anbu, even more than most bounty hunters knew. So there is no need to introduce young men at all. Chapter 356 Assessment Task. Just like the quests of the Ninja Village, the quests of the underground exchange are also graded. What level of bounty hunters can accept quests of what level? Of course, bounty hunters can also accept quests of a lower level than their own, but they cannot take on tasks of a higher level than yourself. The reason why the underground exchange does this is because it is afraid that someone will randomly take the task and then fail to complete it, which will exceed the task deadline. As for the level of the bounty hunter, this needs to be assessed. When a person newly joins the underground exchange, he can choose different levels of assessment tasks according to his own strength. Once passed, he can become a bounty hunter of this level. Once the level is determined, the only way to improve the level in the future is to continuously complete the tasks. Once the bounty hunter has completed 10 tasks of the same level, they can submit an application for assessment. Only by passing the assessment can the level be improved. Bounty hunters are divided into 7 levels from weak to strong: D, C, B, A, S, SS, and SSS. Among them, D is the lowest level and the weakest bounty hunter, not even genin. C level corresponds to the strength of genin, B level is chunin, A level is jonin, S level is elite jonin, SS level quasi-shadow, and SSS level is cage level. According to Dong Shenyao's information from Anbu, there are only 3 SSS level bounty hunters in the current underground exchange. These 3 are also known as the 3 emperors, and they are the supreme beings in the bounty hunter world. In addition, among the bounty hunters, there are also 8 SS level existences, and these 8 people are called the 8 kings. It can be said that these bounty hunters, if combined, are no less powerful than the other 4 powers except Konoha. Of course, the bounty hunters fight separately, and it is difficult for them to unite together. Therefore, although the 5 ninja kingdoms are somewhat afraid of the strength of the bounty hunters, they are not afraid of them. The young man saw that Dong Shenyao knew the rules of the underground exchange, so he didn't waste his words and asked directly, "I don't know what level of assessment, mister." "I'm going to have a S grade assessment." S level. The young man was stunned when he heard the words, but he quickly recovered. After all, the underground exchange has been established for so many years, and everyone has appeared. Don't say that a newcomer has undergone the S-level assessment. Even if it is a direct, there are also SSS level assessments, but none of them passed. S-level assessment was conducted directly, and there were still some who passed directly. The young man didn't know whether Dong Shenyao was confident or arrogant, but he still reminded him, "Sir, the S-level assessment is very difficult, especially for a new bounty hunter like you. Even some elite Jonin people, it may not be able to pass the examination." Quote, "Thank you for your kindness, I have made up my mind." Seeing that Dong Shenyao was so determined, the young man did not persuade him, and directly took out a form and handed it to Dong Shenyao. "Since Mr. has decided, please fill out this form." After taking the form, Dong Shenyao glanced at Ding roughly and found that there was not much content on it, just need to fill in the gender, code name and the level of the application for assessment. As for other identity information, there is no Soon Dong Shenyao had filled in the gender and the level to apply for the assessment, and now only the code name is left. The bounty hunters registered in the underground exchange basically use the code name, not their own name. After all, there are many people whose identities are special and inconvenient for others to know, just like standing on the top of the bounty hunter world now. The SS level and SSS level powerhouses in the peak, everyone only knows their code names, but they don't know their real names. Even many of these people have not even revealed their true colors. Some people speculate that some of these powerhouses are masters of the major ninja villages. Because just after the end of the previous battle, 2 SS level masters disappeared and never appeared again. Some people speculated that the 2 of them fell on the battlefield. Of course, these are just guesses, and no one knows what the truth is. Code name, what should I choose? Dong Shenyao always had a headache when it came to choosing a name. The Emperor. No, I used this in Anbu before, and it's easy to be suspected if I use it now. Dark Blade. This is even worse. Shadow. Think about it. In the end, Dong Shenyao thought about it for nearly 10 minutes, and then he wrote the code name in the impatient gaze of the young man. Evil Emperor. Okay, I'm done, said. Dong Shenyao returned the form to the young man. When the man saw the code name written by Dong Shenyao, his eyes suddenly narrowed, and then he handed the form to Dong Shenyao again and said, "Please change the code." What? Is there something wrong with this code name, or is it already used by someone? No one uses it, but you'd better not add the word king or emperor to your code name, unless you reach SS level or SSS level. Some people have added the word king or emperor to their code name before, and these last everyone was killed by SS level and SSS level masters among the bounty hunters. Therefore, there is a hidden rule in the bounty hunter world. Only SS level masters can use the king as the code name, and SSS level can use the emperor as the code name. It turned out to be like this. These people are so domineering, but I won't change it. If these people want to trouble me, feel free to come. Dong Shenyao didn't care. The SSS level is only a cage level master at most. Dong Shenyao is not afraid now. Seeing that Dong Shenyao was so determined, the young man couldn't say anything. He could only put away the form, but at this time he looked at Dong Shenyao as if he was looking at a dead man. If it's just the king, then it's just SS level masters, but the emperor has already violated the taboo of SSS level masters. The young man doesn't think Dong Shenyao can survive being hunted by SSS level masters. I have some assessment tasks here. You can choose one. Remember that the assessment time is only 5 days. If you can't complete it after 5 days, you will fail. You can only become a D rank bounty hunter. Well, I see, said. Dong Shenyao took the task scroll and checked it. There are not many quests on the scroll, only 5, but although he only glanced at it, Dong Shenyao found that these 5 quests are not easy. If he is really just an elite jonin, then it is really possible to finish. Not fulfill these tasks. Capture missing nin Kitayama Daiki. Note: Kitayama Daiki, Kumogakure village missing nin, elite jonin. It turned out to be to catch instead of kill. This is really a bit troublesome. Shaking his head, Dong Shenyao directly passed the task. Chapter 357 Underground Cave. Catch an elite jonin with Dong Shenyao's strength, but if it is replaced by a real elite jonin, it will be difficult. Killing an elite jonin is different from catching an elite jonin, and if you're killing an elite jonin, you can do anything. But to catch an elite jonin, you must be careful not to let him die. From such a task alone, Dong Shenyao can see the difficulty of the assessment task. Although Dong Shenyao is fully capable of completing this task, he still has no choice, because it is too troublesome, and there is no benefit. The reason why he chose to become a bounty hunter is not for those bounties. Soon Dong Shenyao took a look at several other tasks. The other tasks were also not easy, either not too difficult or very troublesome. After weighing the pros and cons, Dong Shenyao made a choice. I'll take this assignment. Are you sure? The young man asked after seeing the task of Dong Shenyao's finger. Well, I'm sure. Okay, I'll record it. After speaking, the young man buried himself in writing, and after recording, he took out another scroll and handed it to Dong Shenyao. This is the information about that task, you can take a look. Also, you must complete the task within 5 days, otherwise you will fail. Of course, after completing the task, you can directly hand in the task in the country of medicine, but you still need to come back to me to do some formalities. Well, I see. After speaking, Dong Shenyao didn't look at the contents on the scroll, but put the scroll away, then turned around and left the underground exchange. Since Dong Shenyao entered the underground exchange, the people here have been paying attention to Dong Shenyao. Seeing him leave at this time, a few people followed him out, while others started talking. Hey, are you saying this kid is crazy or is he really strong? I think this kid is probably crazy. He applied for the S-level assessment as soon as he came up. Who does he think he is? A man with a full beard said disdainfully. As a veteran bounty hunter, he sees a lot of people in order to become famous, but unfortunately, most of them fail. Because this kind of assessment of directly becoming an S-rank bounty hunter is much more difficult than a normal S-rank task. If it is replaced by an A-level bounty hunter's promotion assessment, then the most difficult task he will encounter is killing an elite Jonin, rather than catching an elite Jonin. This is the gap. After returning from the original road, Dong Shenyao returned to the toilet again, and then he left without stopping. Not long after Dong Shenyao left, a few people appeared in the toilet again. After looking at each other, they left silently. After leaving the tavern, Dong Shenyao walked down the street, and then took out the quest scroll and checked it. Just now Dong Shenyao received a rescue mission. The mission requirement was to rescue a pharmaceutical master named Sakaguchi Hikaru from an underground cave in the country of medicine. Because of his curiosity about the country of medicine, Dong Shenyao would accept it. Under this task. Before the country of medicine, Dong Shenyao heard that it is a small country close to the country of Earth. There is also a ninja village in this country, called Medicine Ninja Village. It is said that the ninjas in this village are very good at refining medicine, that is, they can refine poison. And can also refine medicines for healing. Even at this time, many medicines in the ninja world were invented by this village, so although the Medicine Ninja Village is not big, it is also famous in the ninja world. The reason why Dong Shenyao is interested in the country of medicine is because there are quite a few pharmacists in the country of medicine, and Dong Shenyao is going to find a few pharmacists for the Dark Blade. Although Dong Shenyao can exchange various potions from the god-making system, it will cost a lot of god-making points. If it is just Dong Shenyao, it will be fine, but now he needs to support the entire Dark Blade, relying on himself alone. Those god-making points are not enough. Therefore, the source of the medicine can only be made by the pharmacist, so that the Dark Blade can develop faster. As for the underground cave, Dong Shenyao didn't take it to heart. He didn't believe that a mere cave could threaten him, especially since this cave was still underground. For Dong Shenyao, it was his home ground. However, in order to complete the quest, Dong Shenyao still looked at the information on the quest scroll in detail. When Dong Shenyao read the information on the scroll, he couldn't help but be stunned. He found that he seemed to underestimate this quest, because the quest scroll said that many bounty hunters had already accepted this quest before, but in the end these people were in after entering the underground cave, he never came up again, and there was even an A-level bounty hunter with the strength of an elite Jonin. Interesting, I want to see what danger is in this cave, but before that, let's get rid of the flies behind. After putting away the scroll, Dong Shenyao left the town directly. After leaving the town, Dong Shenyao stopped before he went far. The little mice in the back, come out, are you not tired after being with me for so long? Dong Shenyao turned around and looked at the trees on both sides and shouted. Whoa! The trees shook, and then 3 men came out. I didn't expect you to find us, but you have some strength. If you hand over all the money on your body, I can spare your life. The man in the lead raised his head slightly, looking down at Dong Shenyao and said. Want money? I just don't know if you have the life to spend. You dare to threaten us? You know, the three of us are all B-level bounty hunters. If you know each other, hand over the money quickly. Yes, hand it over quickly. Or we'll kill you. Facing the threat of the three, Dong Shenyao shook his head helplessly and said, "Hey, why are people always courting death now?" "Boy, what do you mean?" The head of the eldest head seemed to be a little awkward, and he didn't listen to the meaning of Dong Shenyao's words that came out in 4.3 for a while. "Big brother, this kid looks down on us and despises us," the little brother on the side explained. "Wow, how dare you look down on our three brothers and kill him for me?" Kill. With the big wave of the boss, the two younger brothers went straight to Dong Shenyao to kill. Dong Shenyao didn't make a move, but just raised his head and glanced at the two younger brothers. The next moment, the two younger brothers stopped and their bodies froze there. "Hey, what are you doing?" Seeing this scene, the boss became impatient, but after shouting, the two of them didn't move. Confused, the boss walked over and patted the two younger brothers. Puff. Puff. In this shot, the two younger brothers fell to the ground. Ah. Chapter 358 Arrive in the Land of Medicine. The boss in the lead didn't expect that he just slapped the two younger brothers, and slapped them to the ground. At first, he wondered if he was hitting too hard. However, although the boss's reaction was a little slow, after he found out that the two younger brothers had died, he was sure of one thing, that the death of the two younger brothers had nothing to do with him. Everything was probably done by Dong Shenyao. Thinking of this, the man was frightened. His two younger brothers are both Chunin, although they are not as good as him, but the man asked himself, he has no ability to kill these two younger brothers in seconds, but Dong Shenyao did it, but he killed these two unconsciously. Personally, it is obvious that Dong Shenyao is far stronger than him. Puff. The man knelt down directly in front of Dong Shenyao. "Uncle, spare your life, I don't dare anymore, please let me go." The man cried directly, but this time, Dong Shenyao was stunned. He didn't expect this person to be so superb. He was going to use Sharingan's pupil technique to kill the man again, but at this time the man's actions made Dong Shenyao interested. "Aren't you going to avenge your two younger brothers?" Dong Shenyao asked with a stern face. "No, number 15, they are just my little brother, not my own brother. How dare I seek revenge for them? Sir, if you don't remember the villain's sin, please forgive me." After saying that, the man gave Dong Shenyao kowtowed. "Okay, let's go." Dong Shenyao waved his hand impatiently. A mere Chunin, for Dong Shenyao to kill or not, it doesn't matter. "Thank you for your grace of not killing." After speaking, the man didn't dare to stay for long, so he quickly got up and ran away quickly. It's really a big forest, and there are all kinds of birds, but Eternal Mangekyo's pupil technique is very useful. It doesn't take much pupil power to deal with weak ones. The souls of the two younger brothers were pulled into the soul space, and then they were subjected to the top 10 tortures of the Qing dynasty. In the end, the souls of the two men collapsed directly. Don't look at the fact that the two of them died in an instant, but in fact they have spent more than 10 hours in the soul space. Shaking his head, Dong Shenyao didn't care about the man's affairs. He turned around and headed for the land along the road. As for the corpse on the ground, Dong Shenyao didn't care. If you want to go to the country of medicine, then you must cross the country of earth. Because the task has a 5-day deadline, although the task scroll said that today is not time, Dong Shenyao didn't want to waste time, so he let go of the speed and rushed to the land. If it is really an elite Jonin, then it will take at least 2 days to go from the country of fire to the country of medicine, and this has to be at full speed. The country also needs more than a day. So after sending the man away, Dong Shenyao galloped all the way, and finally at full speed, Dong Shenyao finally entered the territory of the land of the earth at dusk, but he did not stop, but continued to drive, and finally it didn't stop until it got completely dark. At this time, Dong Shenyao was deep in the wild, so he could only sleep in the wilderness. The night passed quickly, and after eating dry food the next morning, Dong Shenyao set off on the road again. In the afternoon, Dong Shenyao had left the country of earth and entered the country of medicine. After arriving in the country of medicine, Dong Shenyao slowed down. And at this time, Dong Shenyao's attire has changed. At this time, Dong Shenyao has replaced the transformation technique. The reason for this is because Dong Shenyao found that many people in the country of fire are wearing death tyrant costumes. Later, I found out that these people are learning from him. Because his clothes are so cool, he is sought after by many people. Of course, Dong Shenyao did not forget to put a hat with a black gauze on his head, which could also cover his appearance. As dusk approached, Dong Shenyao came to a town in the country of medicine, and the underground cave described in the mission was just outside this town. Dong Shenyao came to this town to learn about the situation of the cave. After walking around the town, Dong Shenyao had indeed heard a lot of news about the underground caves. It is said that this underground cave appeared 6 months ago. At that time, the ground suddenly collapsed and a cave appeared, which attracted many people to explore, but in the end only one person came out, and the others died in the cave. And the person who came out of the cave alive was also seriously injured, and died before he could finish a sentence, but the few words he said caused an uproar. Ancient ruins, these were the last words left by the man who escaped from the cave, which made everyone boil. The so-called antiquity refers to the era thousands of years ago. Dong Shenyao has also learned about the history of this world before. The history of this world has a very clear dividing line, that is, the Six Paths Immortals. The era before the Six Paths Immortals appeared was called the Ancient Era, until the Six Paths Immortals appeared, passing on the method of Genin's cultivation. This makes the end of the ancient times. However, because the time is too long, people today basically don't know anything about the ancient times. Now suddenly an ancient ruin appeared in 963, which naturally attracted the attention of many people, including the pharmaceutical master Hikaru Sakaguchi. Sakaguchi Hikaru is the leading pharmacist in the ninja world. At this time, he has fallen into a bottleneck, so he hopes to get the ancient times pharmacy formula to help him break through the bottleneck. This Sakaguchi Hikaru is a national treasure of the country of medicine. After he disappeared in the underground cave, he immediately attracted the attention of the famous name of the country of medicine, and sent a lot of ninjas to find Hikaru Sakaguchi. Unfortunately, none of these ninjas left the cave in the end. Inside Out. Helpless, the name of the country of medicine can only be released on the underground exchange. It actually involves the ancients. At this moment, Dong Shenyao was also interested in this cave. Ta Shenyao can be said to be very familiar with the history of the ninja world. After all, he has seen Hokage ninjas. But what Ta Shenyao knows is the history after Otsutsuki Kagaya appeared in this world. As for the past, Ta Shenyao doesn't know anything about it. Now that I have the opportunity to learn about ancient culture, Dong Shenyao is also very curious and wants to see it. However, he has been on the road for the past 2 days, and Dong Shenyao is also a little tired, so he plans to rest in the town for a night. After recuperating, he will go to explore the mysteries of the cave tomorrow. Chapter 359 Explore the Cave. The next morning, Dong Shenyao left the town after buying a lot of food and water in the town. The underground cave was 5 miles away from the town. Originally, it was a barren mountain, and the underground cave appeared at the foot of the barren mountain. When the underground cave first appeared, it was very lively. People entered the cave every day, and there were a lot of people watching the fun outside, and even people from Iwagakure village came later, but the people who entered the cave never came out again. Even the elite Jonin, which makes this underground cave a demon cave in the eyes of everyone, a demon cave that devours life. Therefore, when Dong Shenyao came to the underground cave, he found that there was no one around. Looking at the dark entrance of the cave, Dong Shenyao could feel a cool breeze blowing from the underground cave. Obviously, the cave was not dead, otherwise there would be no wind. I want to see what secrets you have. Taking a deep breath, Dong Shenyao stepped into the cave. Although it was rumored how terrifying the cave was, Dong Shenyao was not afraid, not only because of his strength, but also because of the confidence of Dong Shenyao given by the blood of the earth. Now, Dong Shenyao is not afraid. As Dong Shenyao continued to deepen, the surrounding light became increasingly dim. Although he was walking in a straight line, he could feel that the passage was sloping downward, which meant that he should have left the horizon at this time. After walking for about 100 meters, Dong Shenyao came to a turning point. There was a dead end in front of the passage, and there was a passage on the right. When Dong Shenyao turned into the right passage, there was no more light here, but it was difficult for Dong Shenyao. After opening Sharingan and Byakugan, everything around him became clear. It's not dangerous, is it? After walking for more than 10 minutes, Dong Shenyao still found nothing. He could only feel that he was going deeper into the ground. After walking another 100 meters, Dong Shenyao suddenly stopped because there were several corpses on the ground not far away. Looking around through Byakugan, Dong Shenyao found nothing, and even after using Earthquake, Dong Shenyao did not perceive any living things around. Strange, how did these people die? With questions, Dong Shenyao walked over to check. After careful inspection, Dong Shenyao found that these were ordinary people, because they had been dead for a long time, and the corpses were already decomposed, but Dong Shenyao still found out that their fatal wound was in the heart, but the wound it has been corroded, so Dong Shenyao can't see what damage is caused to them. After careful inspection and found no useful clues, Dong Shenyao hit the road again. Although there is no fork in this passage, it is not straight. Every 100 meters, it needs to turn. After walking for more than 10 minutes, Dong Shenyao came to a huge grotto. Here, Dong Shenyao found more corpses, even the corpses of ninjas and samurai, and judging from the degree of decay of their corpses, Dong Shenyao judged that these people died at different times. Obviously, several groups of people have died here. But what makes Dong Shenyao strange is that he did not find any danger in this grotto, and there is no way forward in this grotto, there is only one way in. Looking around for a while, Dong Shenyao found that there were some murals on the walls around the grotto. After a general look, Dong Shenyao found that these murals actually said things from the ancient times. The reason why it is judged to be in the ancient times is because Dong Shenyao found that there are people who appear on the murals, but there are no ninjas. Ninjas can be said to be the protagonists of today's world, so if it is a mural made in the past 1,000 years, it is impossible for humans in other occupations to have them. That is, there is no ninja. Moreover, Dong Shenyao found that in this mural, the status of the warrior is the highest, which is also a factor for him to judge that this is an ancient mural. Because only in the ancient times, when ninjas did not appear, the samurai family dominated, so this kind of samurai's high status occurred. Even the status of the samurai at that time was higher than that of the ninja now, and the rulers of all countries were samurai. After walking around in the grotto, Dong Shenyao looked at all the murals, but unfortunately there was no gain. Because these murals were already incomplete, Dong Shenyao could not see the meaning of the murals. Dong Shenyao he is not specialized in history, so these frescoes are of no use to him. After giving up on continuing to study the murals, Dong Shenyao slowly sank into the rock, because he had just passed Byakugan and discovered that there was a secret door in the grotto, which obviously needed an agency to open. However, Dong Shenyao didn't need to search for organs, because the mere Shimen couldn't stop him. It turns out that those people died like this. At this time, Dong Shenyao had found the cause of death of the deceased in the grotto. Soon Dong Shenyao passed through the secret door, and another grotto appeared in front of him, but unlike the previous grottos, there were many beasts in this grotto. These beasts are tall and tall, similar in size to tigers, and they found Dong Shenyao as soon as they appeared. Roar! After a roar, a beast closest to Dong Shenyao rushed towards him instantly. Bang! Dong Shenyao directly kicked the beast, but to his surprise, when he kicked the beast, it felt like he was kicking a rock. And just as he kicked a beast, a few more rushed over. Lord of the Earth! Dong Shenyao directly created a rock giant, and several beasts were immediately stopped by the rock giant. Taking advantage of the efforts of the beasts to attack the rock giant, Dong Shenyao began to look at these beasts carefully. Strange, where did these beasts come from? Could it be that they have been living in this burrow? But in that case, what did they rely on to survive? and there is no food here. At this time, Dong Shenyao was full of doubts. But when he carefully observed for a while, he found some information. Dong Shenyao discovered that the skin of these beasts was actually covered with a layer of rock-like material, and this layer of material provided them with a strong defense. And once a beast is injured, it will eat a few bites of the stone wall. After eating the rock, the injury will recover quickly. Chapter 360 Mission Target. Dong Shenyao did not expect these beasts to live on rocks, but this also explains why they can live in caves for so many years. Seeing that these beasts are very difficult to deal with, and even the rock giants have been eaten by half, Dong Shenyao simply did not entangle with them, and directly escaped into the earth. After dealing with the rock giants, these beasts did not realize that Dong Shenyao was gone with the simple minds of these beasts, but after seeing that there were no enemies, these beasts lay on the ground again and began to rest. After Dong Shenyao escaped into the ground, he rushed directly towards the depths of the grotto. It didn't take long for Dong Shenyao to leave the grotto. He found that there were only beasts in the grotto, which made him a little curious. He didn't know why such a beast stayed in the cave. But now is not the time to study these, so Dong Shenyao quickly put his doubts in his heart and continued to rush towards the depths of the burrow. This time, Dong Shenyao didn't hurry on the ground, and went straight into the rocks. Along the way, Dong Shenyao discovered a lot of traps, some of which contained corpses. Obviously, these people had passed through the beast grotto, but unfortunately they died under the traps. At this time, Tashinyao has no hope of whether his mission target Sakaguchi Hikaru is still alive, but fortunately, the requirements of the mission do not have to be alive. It is Sakaguchi Hikaru, and there is a body. Half an hour later, Dong Shenyao didn't know how far he had traveled to the end of 203. At this time, he had really seen the so-called ruins. At this time, what appeared in the sight of Dong Shenyao was simply an underground city. It was a huge cave, dozens of meters high and 3 or 4 football fields in size. There were many houses here, but most of the houses have collapsed due to the baptism of the years. At this time, the dungeon was full of dilapidated atmosphere. Seeing that there was nothing of value on the outskirts of the city, Dong Shenyao rushed straight to the center of the city. Along the way, Dong Shenyao didn't see a single person, some were just damaged buildings. Soon, Dong Shenyao came to a huge palace. Although thousands of years have passed, the palace is still intact, and it is unknown how it was built. However, what caught Dong Shenyao's attention was that the gate of the palace was open at this time, and there were several footprints on the ground. Did someone go in before? Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao no longer hesitated, and hurriedly entered the palace. At this time, Dong Shenyao used the Byakugan with all his strength and the earth shook, and finally made some discoveries in a room deep in the palace. Passing through the corridors, Dong Shenyao came to a room, and through Byakugan Dong Shenyao saw several corpses in this room. Pushing open the door, Dong Shenyao stepped in. This room is very large, hundreds of square meters, and is inlaid with some luminous ores, making the room brighter. There is a pool in the center of the room, but there is nothing in it. In addition, there was a corpse lying on the edge of the pool, and at the same time, a person was lying on the ground 10 meters away from the pool. In addition to these 2 corpses, there are 3 corpses in this room, but these 3 corpses have been turned into white bones, and they have obviously been dead for many years. Looking at the corpse on the ground, at first Dong Shenyao thought he was also a dead person, but after Dong Shenyao approached him, he sensed the existence of a trace of life force. Only living people have the power of life. Obviously, this person is still completely dead, but judging from the weakness of his life force, he will not live long. But that's enough. After Dong Shenyao walked over, he first used Eternal Mangekyo's pupil technique to introduce a trace of life force into this person's body to ensure that he would not die temporarily, and Dong Shenyao used pupil technique to control the soul and began to directly read this person's soul, the memory contained in it. He turned out to be Hikaru Sakaguchi. After reading this person's memory, Dong Shenyao learned that this person was the target of his mission this time, Hikaru Sakaguchi. At the same time, from the memory of this person, Dong Shenyao also knew about the side of the pool. The identity of the corpse is the bounty hunter of elite Jonin strength who was mentioned on the previous quest scroll, who disappeared in the burrow. After thoroughly digesting Sakaguchi's memories, Tashinyao understood many things. Sakaguchi Hikaru entered the ruins before to find ancient prescriptions. Under the protection of the guards, Sakaguchi Hikaru can be said to have passed 5 levels and killed 6 generals, and finally came to this ruins, but unfortunately, the people who protected him are also dead. But Sakaguchi Hikaru didn't care. As long as he could find an ancient prescription, everything was worth it. In the end, Sakaguchi Hikaru searched every corner of the ruins, but found nothing. In the end, he could only put all his hopes in the palace in the center of the city. And a long time has passed by this time. Fortunately, Hikaru Sakaguchi brought a lot of dry food and water, and he even had some medicines like Bigu pill that he made, so that he could stay in the ruins for so long. Did not starve. But at this time, the country of medicine was anxious. Seeing that Sakaguchi Hikaru hadn't come out for a long time, he was worried and released the task in the underground exchange. At first, many people took the task, but they all died, until the 1 and A-rank bounty hunter with elite Jonin strength appears. Relying on his great strength and good luck, this man also successfully came to the ruins. He didn't think much about it at first, he just wanted to find Hikaru Sakaguchi and complete the task, but when he found Hikaru Sakaguchi, he appeared some surprises. Sakaguchi Hikaru did find a lot of things in this palace. There are some historical documents that tell about the events of the ancient times, as well as the identity of this relic, etc., but these are not what interests Sakaguchi Hikaru. What really caught his attention is a message. This relic was originally a country called the Kingdom of Li, and it is also good at making medicines. One day this country got an extraterrestrial meteorite. In this meteorite, they found a strange plant. After research, they found this plant. It contains powerful energy. If it can be absorbed by people, it can make a person instantly possess powerful strength. So the top officials of the country called together all the powerful pharmacists and began to develop medicines. But not only why this news leaked out, other countries will naturally not watch them successfully develop drugs and then increase their strength, so the war broke out. Although the country of Li is not weak, after facing the siege of several countries, it is still invincible. In the end, in desperation, the big name directly launched the mechanism that had already been prepared, and sank the capital of the entire country into the ground. In order to resist the attack of the enemy country,